Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, November 10th, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Minnetonka City Council. I will call this meeting to order and ask you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Larson, would you please call roll?
Coakley.
Here.
Foster Bolton.
Here.
Shack.
Here.
Wilburn.
Here.
Calvert.
Here.
Romaley.
Here.
Wearsum.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda. We have an addendum. Mr. Funk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Have two items for your consideration on tonight's addenda. One is related to item 14B, which is the preliminary plat for DeYoung Estates, a two-lot subdivision at 18420 Old Excelsior Boulevard. There were written comments received after publication of the report and your packet that had went out. So what you have is comments that generally pertain to the construction that's occurring on the adjacent property north of the proposed DeYoung Estates subdivision. As you notice in that correspondence, the commenter raises issues, and staff is engaging with the commenter on those issues, but they are really related to a separate lot. So majority of those comments, again, are not related to the DeYoung Estates. And then with item 14E, which is a resolution awarding the sale and taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2025A for the Villas of Chasewood Housing Improvement Area, or the HIA. A new day of sale report and updated resolution are attached to this item. So when the packet went out, there was a lot of blanks in your report just based on the sales that occurred. The recommended action is to motion to adopt the resolution on the sale of the taxable general obligation housing improvement bonds, Series 2025A, in the original aggregate principal amount of $7,970,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment. And we'll cover that as staff with that agenda item later. And then with that, Mayor and Council, that is the two addendas for your consideration. Staff recommends motion to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Any questions or a motion? Councilmember Romaley.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Councilmember Calvert.
I'll second.
Thank you both. We've got a motion by Councilmember Romaley and a second by Councilmember Calvert. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romaley.
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is special matters, and we have two of those tonight. The first is the retirement recognition for facilities manager Kevin Moss. So I can have you come up, or I can read this first and then have you come up. Maybe we'll do it that way so you can take this all in, Mr. Moss. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I get this right. So Kevin Moss started at the City of Minnetonka in 2015. He came to the city with an educational background in public administration and business and prior experience in both private and public work. This work included development, construction, and county government, serving as the facilities service manager of Carver County, Minnesota. Mr. Moss has a longtime resident of Minnetonka, was also a previous member of the City of Minnetonka Economic Development Advisory Commission, EDAC. Mr. Moss has served as the city's facilities manager for the Building Maintenance Division of Public Works for the last 10 years, where he oversaw 10 staff and managed 15 city facilities. He was an active participant in the International Facility Manager Association and became certified as a Sustainability Facility Professional, SFP, which provides professionals of the industry educational opportunities to increase their depth of knowledge related to sustainability efforts. He has promoted sustainability throughout his time in the city, including serving on the Sustainability Committee for the Public Safety Facility Project and supporting sustainability through equipment selection and material reuse. Mr. Moss and his team are responsible for operations and maintenance of the city's building structures and component systems, including electrical and mechanical, heating and cooling, office setups, custodial, and major capital facility projects. The facilities team supports both city employees and visitors to all of the city's facilities. Mr. Moss also has led a number of notable projects during his time at the city, including the preservation of the Burwell House, the City Hall remodel, the $30 million public safety facility construction and installation of the city's first rooftop and ground solar array projects. Mr. Moss and his team also had to develop and quickly adapt to a completely new set of building facility protocols during the pandemic to ensure the health, safety, and operational continuity of buildings and occupants. Further, his accomplishments include his work as a lifetime member and former president of the Economic Development Association of Minnesota and secretary and treasurer for the Twin Cities Metro Certified Development Company, serving as a board member for 30 years, along with leading efforts in the audit, budget, and executive committees for the past 15 years. So I want to thank Kevin Moss for all he has done for the city as he retires from the city on November 20, 2025. And then, Mr. Moss, I'm going to invite you forward, and I've got a little memento here for you, and I will read this and present it, and then give you the opportunity to say a few words if you'd like. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to give you this, and let's see, can I better grab those glasses again? Thank you. Human frailty is a problem. So this says, it's kind of hard to read, a community reflects the character and dedication of those who serve it. The residents of Minnetonka are grateful to you. Kevin Moss, Public Works, 2015 to 2025. So that's for you.
Thank you very much. All right, very good. I know you're in a hurry to watch your Packers tonight.
Well, we'll see.
No, it's been a privilege to serve the community of Minnetonka, and I've been a resident for 36 years now. We'll have our 37th anniversary on New Year's Eve. We moved in, and it's been a great run, and I appreciate everything the council's done and their support, and city staff as well. It's been a great place to work and a great place to finish up. Thank you.
And Mr. Moss, Kevin, I just want to thank you personally. I mean, I've known you for a long time. Our kids played hockey together, and we were hockey dads together. But thanks for your service to the city. It's been great working with you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll do that. So the next special matter is a proclamation for Native American Heritage Month, and I've asked Councilmember Rameli to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. I was hoping that staff could maybe project it also on the screen if that's possible, so that people in the audience can see this as well. So, City of Minnetonka Proclamation, Native American Heritage Month, November 1st to 30th, 2025. Whereas the month of November is recognized as Native American Heritage Month, a time to honor and celebrate the rich histories, diverse cultures, and invaluable contributions of Native peoples across the United States. And whereas this month serves as a time to reflect on the injustices and inequities experienced by Native peoples, including displacement, broken treaties, and loss of culture. And whereas recognizing these truths is an essential step towards healing, understanding, and reconciliation, and reaffirms our collective responsibility to advance equity, justice, and inclusion for all Indigenous peoples. And whereas the city of Minnetonka resides on the ancestral homelands of the Mdewakanton, Dakota people, and Anishinaabe, Ojibwe people, and honoring this land and its original stewards deepens our appreciation for the history, culture, and enduring presence of Indigenous peoples in our community. And whereas the city of Minnetonka is committed to recognizing and celebrating Native Native American Heritage Month as a part of its ongoing dedication to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Minnetonka does hereby proclaim November 2025 as Native American Heritage Month and call upon the people of Minnetonka to learn from and celebrate the stories, traditions, and contributions of Indigenous peoples, past, present, and future.
Thank you, Councilmember Rameli. And a little confession here, in my enthusiasm to get to special matters, because we don't have those every time, I overlooked item 5, which is approval of minutes. And so that made it challenging for staff to try and keep all the right stuff in front of the council and on the video. But we do have one set of minutes that we're taking out of order. And so they are the October 20th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. So we just need to approve those. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the October 20th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
And is there a second? Councilmember Rameli.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Rameli. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Rameli.
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. And as good as those special matters were, we're not going to repeat them. So we're going to move on to item 7, which is reports from the city manager and council members. Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. A couple things for your consideration this evening. First off, this upcoming Thursday, a number of us staff members are going to be meeting with the House Bonding Committee, and Mayor Wearsum is invited, Mayor-elect Rebecca Shack was invited. We've invited our local legislators as well. It's an opportunity for us as staff to showcase our bonding request of a fire station to our local legislators and to that bonding committee, so we're looking forward to that coming up. And then also want to just mention Spooktacular, and perhaps maybe a few of you may mention that as well. Just really want to acknowledge Kelly O'Day and our recreation team for their efforts. Spooktacular is always a fun event. It's just such fun seeing families and young kids and all the costumes at the Burwell House. So thank you to our staff and for everyone in the community for coming out and participating. You never know how the weather goes, and we were fortunate again this year with some good weather on Halloween, or at least decent weather on Halloween. And then also 2 more things. I want to thank Becky Kuzman, our city clerk, Kelsey Larson, Nicole Tingley, Tanya Witchen, which is our election staff, all of our election judges, our head judges, for everyone that participated in this year's election. Ms. Kuzman will speak to that later on our agenda item, but certainly just want to recognize our staff for the work that they put in for our elections. It goes without saying that we're really proud of our elections here in Minnetonka, the way that we conduct them with such integrity and honor in the way that we conduct our business. And then last, just want to reference item 14E, which is again the bond issuance sales. Council, I know you're aware of this, but I think it's worth publicly saying as well that we had our bond rating call. It was the first time in 4 years that we recently did our bond rating call. That was a couple weeks ago. We were affirmed that we are maintaining our AAA bond rating, which really reflects our strong local economy, supported by our proximity to Minneapolis, high resident income levels, evaluated per value per capita. And the city maintains a robust financial position, over 100% of our revenue that is expected to remain stable, benefiting from disciplined budgeting practices and also consistent revenue growth. So all that gets evaluated, and happy to report as staff to you, Mayor and Council, and to our community that we will maintain our AAA bond rating. That also get highlighted later this evening. So with that, I turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Council members, are there things that you would like to report on? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just want to congratulate my fellow council members on their respective electoral victories, and to all the people that helped them. And mostly I want to thank the election staff and our incredible election judges who work very, very hard and administer really well-run elections. I hear wonderful things from people out in the community, and it is literally democracy in action. So I'm just so appreciative of the professionalism, not only of the staff, but really of the people, the election judges. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Is there anyone else? Councilmember Shack. Or
Thank
should
you.
I say Mayor-elect
I
Shack?
think it's council member, I think, at this point. Thank you, Mayor. I echo what Councilmember Calvert said and also would extend the congratulations back her way. Also, and we are on the path of well-deserved recognition for the next 6 weeks of our outgoing mayor, who has done such a phenomenal job on behalf of the city. And so I'll say it now, and we will all be saying it several times in the upcoming weeks, because he deserves a lot of credit for what a great city Minnetonka is. And likewise to election staff, it's a lot of work, even when it's a local election year, and a lot of moving pieces. And to all of our election judges, great work. Really appreciate it. And that long early voting window makes it tricky for staffing and keeping people here when it's probably pretty slow at the beginning. So appreciate all the work. And then finally, I will say, I tell everybody this every year, but my absolute favorite event that the city puts on is Spooktacular, because it truly is walking into a Hallmark movie. And so the staff does such a nice job with it. They're so enthusiastic. This year, we had such a great turnout because the weather was excellent. So it feels like it was forever ago, but I want to make sure to recognize that was such a wonderful event.
Thank you, Councilmember Shack. Anyone else? Councilmember Wilburn.
Just really quickly, I want to echo what my fellow council members have said, congratulate them on their victories, and thanks to all of our everybody who volunteered and supported our various campaigns. And again, thanks to the campaign or the election staff here at the city that works so hard to make sure that the elections go off without a hitch.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilburn. Is there anyone else? Okay, I always have a few things, so I'll try not to take too long, but first of all, I want to congratulate the winners of the election, and that you worked hard. You won your election because of your hard work, but also the incumbents won because of the excellent work that they've done for the last 4 years, and in some cases more. The other thing I want to do is I want to thank all of the candidates, people who had the guts to step up and pay their $5 and get their name on the ballot, because that you put yourself in the public eye, and there's for each office there's only one winner, but we had a lot of candidates, a lot of interest in the election in Minnetonka this year, and I think that reflects well on the city, and I also think that the results of the election reflect well on the city too, because as I listened and I observed, I think our residents are quite happy with Minnetonka and the way it's being run. And that's a reflection on this council. It's a reflection on our city staff. It's a reflection on the way we do things. And I talked to Mr. Funk the day after the election. I said, this election was a good day for the Minnetonka brand, because we're a city that does things well. And the biggest issue that I heard in the election was that, well, taxes are too high. Now, raise your hand if you don't want your taxes lower. We all want lower taxes. And the thing that we do in Minnetonka is we deliver value. And I think that our taxes are not low. I'd like them to be lower, but we offer value to our residents for what they pay for. And I think that's recognized. And I think the election results recognize that, because people were hard pressed to come up with meaningful issues about what's wrong with our city. So as a departing mayor, I am very proud of that. And it's a team effort. It's not the mayor. It's everyone here. It's everyone in this room. And it's 400 people who work for the city in many different capacities. So I'm really proud of that. So I wanted to share that. And then I was not at Spooktacular this year. Shame on me, but I was out of state doing something else. So I'm sorry I missed it, but I know that we did a great job on that. But the other thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow is Veterans Day. So City Hall will be closed tomorrow. But if you came through the community center entrance, there is a great display that honors the veterans that are connected to the employees of the city. And I spent a little time with that book reading through, and I certainly recognized a lot of names. I didn't know all the people in there, but we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to everyone who served. And I can tell you, my dad served in World War II. His career in the U.S. Army was cut short due to health challenges, but he served during World War II. My uncle was actually involved in D-Day in World War II and in a lot of other places in Europe. But we owe just such a debt of gratitude to our veterans. So if you know a veteran tomorrow, thank them for their service. And if you want to learn more about the veterans whose family members work for the city or who might have worked for the city in the past, refer to the book downstairs that's in the lobby. It's interesting reading. And then I am co-chair of the Regional Council of Mayors. We have a meeting once a month, and we have different speakers. And today our speaker was former Governor Pawlenty, and he was very entertaining and very informative. He kind of provided some lessons on leadership, and I think everyone there, regardless of their political orientation, took something away of value. And I just want to thank Governor Pawlenty for sharing his perspective with us. It was very interesting and very worthwhile. So that is it for reports from council members and city manager and council members. So we'll go on to the next item, which is citizens wishing to discuss matters not on the agenda. And so this is an open mic opportunity. If you have an issue that you would like to share with us that is not on tonight's agenda, come forward, state your name and address, tell us what you want us to hear. We will not take any action. We will acknowledge it, and if there's any follow-up required, we will turn to staff and have them follow up with you and then report back to us. So thank you for being here, and if you have something you'd like to let us know, please come forward and state your name and address and let us know.
Good evening. Thank you. Excuse the athleisure wear. I'm going right to soccer practice after this. So thank you. My name is Molly Moylanen. I'm at 3929 Brown Lane in Minnetonka. I'm a longtime Minnetonka resident. I grew up here. I graduated from Hopkins, and I moved back before my kids started school because of the spooktacular. And I love everything about this community. So earlier this year, I was pleased to learn that back in 2020, the Minnetonka City Council passed an ordinance restricting flavored tobacco sales to tobacco-only shops. Thank you for that. More than 30 Minnesota cities and counties now have similar protections. And I sincerely hope that this momentum leads to a statewide law someday soon. What brings us here tonight is the lack of compliance with our local policy. In 2024, Hennepin County Public Health assessed 18 tobacco retailers in Minnetonka, and all 18, 100%, were out of compliance, selling flavored tobacco in violation of our city code. Thanks to my fantastic city council member, Councilmember Rameli, thank you, we've been able to better understand the city's process, the log of some official complaints, spur retailer education, and finally see some enforcement action this fall, 5 years after council passed the original ordinance. While we're seeing a few retailers comply, kudos to Cub and Walgreens, most are still not in compliance. So yesterday, my daughter and 5 of her friends conducted congratulate and educate visits. In a moment, you'll hear what they observed. First, I'll share just a few facts. About 90% of adult smokers start before age 18. Nicotine addiction almost always begins during adolescence, when the developing brain is most vulnerable. Preventing nicotine exposure in adolescence is critical because that's when addiction really sets in. Strong flavor restrictions reduce youth access and use by removing products that are most appealing to kids. But as you know, policies are only as good as their enforcement. If we're going to claim the credit and the benefit of these policies, we have to make sure the policies are communicated and followed. I look forward to the day when we can come back and report a 100% compliance rate instead of a 100% failure rate. That's when we'll know we're doing right by our policies and by our kids. Thank you for your time, and special thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your long and impactful service. I hope to see you out on the trail soon. I'll turn it over to the girls. Maybe they each have just a couple seconds, 30 seconds or so. If they all came up together, would that be okay?
Very good. Yes, welcome.
And I do have a handout too that I can leave with you. Should I give that here or?
Yeah, you can hand it here and we'll pass it along.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then ladies, come on up and tell us what you want us to hear. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the Minnetonka City Council. My name is Amelia Bidwell, and I am a citizen of our beloved community. I am 12 years old and a 6th grader at Minnetonka Middle School East, along with my fellow peers. I love my family and friends very much and would never want anything to happen to them. Recently, it has come to my attention that many gas stations are not following our policy of zero sales on flavored tobacco, and that concerns me because I would not like anyone I love or know to be harmed by these products. In the research I have done with my group, we have found that many stores have signs for these products at the eye level of children. Furthermore, these stores are selling tobacco in flavors from Berry Blast to Banana Split. You may be asking yourself, what can I do to solve this problem? In truth, there are many things you can do, but the main thing is to enforce the law that you have created by using your resources to make this law more voiced so that the young people in our community can live a longer smoke-free life. We hope that this presentation will help prevent smoking in the future. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Ingrid. I'm a 6th grader at MME. I love reading and dragons, and I want to be a prosthetic engineer for animals when I grow up. I really care about this topic, and because I don't want any young people to become addicted to flavored vapes. I do not think it's right to target kids in smoking, vaping, etc. The flavors are constantly drawing more and more kids in. Me and some other 6th graders went to different gas stations and shops to investigate flavors of tobacco and try to bring further awareness to it. I noticed that Loon and Zyn were seen repetitively at stores. I also noted that they had a video game vape that the more you vape, the more points you score, which seems to specifically target youth. These companies should not keep selling these perilous products, and they know it. I have a shout out for Cub because they had 0 flavored tobacco elements, and they were the only store we visited that had that. But the reason I'm here is to ask you to enforce the law and help enforce getting rid of flavored tobacco. Thank you for your time and help our city become healthier.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Isma Taha. I live in Minnetonka with my 2 brothers and my parents. I'm a 6th grader at MME, and I love playing soccer and tennis. When I grow up, I want to be a detective. I care about this because I don't want my friends and family to smoke or get addicted. It is very unhealthy, and I don't want anyone getting hurt. Yesterday, I learned that it is targeted to young people and that there are many different forms of tobacco. Like one of the most popular brands, Loon and Zyn. I also noticed that there was a variety of flavors like cinnamon, mint, coffee, and more. Please help by making sure all stores ban flavored tobacco. Thank you for listening to us and for everything you do. Please start enforcing the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Emma Reeby. I live in Minnetonka with my mom and brother. I go to school at Minnetonka Middle School East, and I'm in 6th grade. I love to run and play soccer. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher or a nurse. I care about this because I don't want my friends, family, and peers to get addicted to nicotine or tobacco. It's not right to target kids by flavoring tobacco and or nicotine. Yesterday, when me and my friends went to stores all around Minnetonka, I noticed a repetitive sequence of the brands Loon and Zyn. I also noticed that there was a big variety of flavors, like peppermint, citrus, berry, cinnamon, wintergreen, coffee, etc. Please help enforce the law, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Caroline Hansen, and I live here in Minnetonka with my mom, dad, sister, and 2 cats. I'm a 6th grader at Minnetonka Middle School East. I love to go running with my mom and friends, playing guitar, and reading The Hunger Games. Yesterday, me and some friends went to 10 different stores to either celebrate or educate shops with flavored tobacco and nicotine products targeted towards kids like us. I think that this is an important subject because I don't want my family, friends, and peers to get addicted to dangerous products that include nicotine, tobacco, and or menthol. We learned from the BP in Glen Lake that Loon e-cigarettes are popular for women in their 20s, Juul e-cigarettes are popular for women in their 30s, and that Black and Mild flavored cigarettes are most common for men. Berry, grape, and mint were some of the most common flavors. We found many flavored tobacco ads on gas station doors right at our eye level, obviously on purpose. Some were very cheap at only $2. That is cheaper than a bubbler with almost double the use. So if you want your teenager to just be bugged by you and not drugged by vapes, please enforce this law. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bonnie Beckett, and I am 12 years old. I live in our city, Minnetonka, with my mom, dad, and brother. I love to play sports and have dance parties with my grandpa. Flavored tobacco is supposed to be restricted in our community, but it's everywhere. Yesterday, we observed many flavors, including wintergreen, blue slushy, and banana split. We even saw a flavored vape with a built-in video game. Who are they targeting? It's obvious, kids like us. Please take more steps to enforce Minnetonka's flavored tobacco law. I know we can do better. Thank you. Thank
you very much. So I'd like to thank you all for being here and just make a couple of quick comments that you've done a real service to your community, because I think we as a council, when that law was passed, felt we were doing the right thing, and we were. But to your point, if we're not monitoring closely and ensuring that a law is followed, then we've only made ourselves feel good, and we haven't made our community safer and healthier. So, one, I really appreciate that. The other thing I want to say is you're making a difference, and I hope that you will always remember your participation in this city council meeting, and that as you go through your lives, that you will recognize that by being involved, by showing up, you can make a difference on a lot of issues. So let this be a first step. I'm not going to say it's the first step, but let it be a first step in your community involvement in making your community better. It's because it's when people like you come forward that we do a better job. Because I don't think anyone on our staff or any of our council members here intend for these laws to not be followed. But we recognize sometimes when we pass ordinances and pass laws that there's got to be more than just the action here. We've got to make sure that they get followed. So you've performed a real service for your community, and I thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has something for the council? Good evening.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bruce DeYoung, and we're celebrating our AAA bond rating being reaffirmed today. I'd just like to bring up a little history for you. We're celebrating long-term employees. Former finance director Dale Eggenberger, starting in the early 70s, was a singular force for the improvement of the city of Minnetonka. He was responsible for getting the first Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association. He was responsible for getting the AAA bond rating for the city of Minnetonka before we were 50,000 population, and at that time we were one of the smallest communities in the country to have a AAA bond rating. And the last thing that Dale did was he was also responsible for setting up the Community Investment Fund and having a wonderful resource for a lot of improvements throughout the community. So I want to recognize Finance Director Darren Nelson for continuing that tradition of excellence among the staff members here, and congratulate our City Administrator Funk for continuing also with financial excellence in Minnetonka. Thank you very much.
Oh, Mr. DeYoung, thank you. Financial excellence is one of the 6 core pillars of our strategic plan. And I knew Dale when he served here. I've been around long enough to have known him. And we got many financial reporting awards that started under his watchful eye, but they've continued. And as you've rightly indicated, Darren Nelson's been a part of continuing that. So I'm proud of the excellence of our financial reporting and our conservative budgeting and approach to things. And I really appreciate the recognition you just shared with us.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment tonight? Anyone? All right, seeing no one, we will move on. So the next item on the agenda is bids and purchases. And good night, everyone. Thanks for coming in. Bids and purchases, and we have none of those tonight. So that brings us to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda is items that are typically quite routine. So we will, I will read them into the record. And if anyone wants to pull an item for further consideration, whether you're in the audience or a council member, please indicate that. Then we will vote on all of the items that are not pulled, and then we'll return to the items that have been pulled for further comment and an individual vote. So I'll read these into the record right now. So item 10A is the Strategic Plan Quarter 3 report. And item 10B is the preliminary plat for DeYoung Estates, a 2-lot subdivision at 18420 Old Excelsior Boulevard. And item 10C is a resolution supporting the appointment of Ricardo Bonner to the Board of Managers of the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District by the Hennepin County Board of Commissioners. And item 10D is a resolution appointing Bond Trust Services Corporation as fiscal agent in connection with certain outstanding obligations. So are there any, would anyone like to pull any items? Councilmember Calvert?
Yeah, I just, mostly just to make a comment on 10B, and I'll make a very brief comment on 10A.
All right. Well, then we will, well, if you're not going to pull it, but you want to make a comment, make the comment, and then we'll move forward. So go ahead, Councilmember Calvert.
Sounds good. Just in terms of this strategic plan quarter 3 report, I just want to thank staff for the great work and the obvious progress that we're making on our strategic priorities. And, you know, Mr. Funk made a wonderful announcement about our AAA bond rating, which is actually part of our, one of the action items in our strategic plan. So thank you very much to our finance department, especially Mr. Nelson, but it's just great work, and I'm glad to see we're making the progress. And then on 10B, I just wanted to make sure I said this. There is, I watched the Planning Commission meeting. There is a lot of development on that end of town, just a lot of development. And there is some understandable concern about tree loss and just sort of environmental conditions and just things that go on. We, you know, there were some strong feelings expressed in our addendum this evening, and I just want to say that when you have fully conforming lots, people don't understand that those are things that they're not violating anything specifically if they're meeting our tree ordinance and our setbacks and the buildable space and all of the things. We are somewhat, our hands are somewhat tied in what we can do, but I will say that as the development goes, I hope that people are mindful of the trees and the environmental conditions and just the nature of sort of the wooded beauty that's on that end of town. So I will just leave it at that.
All right. Would anyone else like to make any comments on either of those items? I'll just add a little bit that, development, people don't like change. I mean, that's one thing you can say with absolute certainty. People dislike change. And so when a development like this comes forward, there are going to be people who don't like it because it's a change. At the same time, people have the right, they have property rights, and they have the right to make changes that are conforming with our ordinances and with our policies. And in fact, Councilmember Calvert touched on this, when a project is fully conforming, the city is compelled to approve it. Because if we didn't, we create legal liability for the city because the applicant would have the right to sue the city and would win because a proposal is fully compliant. So there are times when I've sat up here and voted to approve things that I didn't particularly like, but they were fully conforming. But I will say, and I will congratulate our staff, even in those circumstances, we've always worked well with the applicant. And I think staff, through its persuasion and knowledge, has enabled those developments to be developed in such a way that there is less impact than was feared or anticipated. But understand, it's not like for some developments, we just throw away our values and say, well, we're going to prove it. No, there are some things that come forward. We have absolutely no choice, but we don't stop working on improving it to make it as good as it can be for the residents of our community. So, pardon the speech, but I think it's important to put that into context. So, Councilor Calvert, I don't know if you'd like to make a motion on, let's see, well, if you'd like to make the motion, that'd be
Sure.
great. Go ahead.
Sure.
We didn't pull those, so they're all up, right?
Right, exactly. So I'd like to make the motion to adopt consent agenda items 10A, B, C, and D.
And is there a second? Councilmember Shack.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Shack. Ms. Larson, please call the roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romaley.
Yes.
Weirson.
Yes, motion carries. Item 11 is consent agenda items requiring 5 votes, and we have none of those tonight. So that brings us to item 12, introduction of ordinances. And 12A is an ordinance amending sections 130.005 and 130.010 relating to members, appointments, and terms of the Senior Advisory Board. And Mr. Funk, I believe you have that. Or is that, no, Ms. Dahman. Excuse me, we talked about that earlier, right? I forgot to make that, Ms. Dahman, pardon me.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening we'll be talking about the ordinance amending sections 130.005 and 130.010 relating to members, appointments, and terms of the Senior Advisory Board. This is an introduction of ordinance, so the recommendation this evening is to motion to introduce the ordinance, and it requires 4 votes this evening. A little bit of background. So our current ordinance is the number of members is currently at 15, with 7 members appointed in even number years and 8 members appointed in odd number years. The challenge with that, there's difficulty in maintaining consistent participation in scheduling and limits the board's ability to hold productive discussions and reach timely discussions. So proposed change this evening is to amend the city code to reduce membership to up to 12 members, with up to 6 members appointed in even numbered years and up to 6 members appointed in odd number years. The intended outcome is to promote stronger engagement among members, streamline operations, and support more effective discussions and decision-making. So with that tonight, the introduction is to motion to introduce the ordinance, and there are 4 votes required. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dahman. Council, any questions for staff on this item? Or this is an introduction, so we do get another bite at the apple on this, but would someone like to make a motion? Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I make the motion to introduce item 12A.
And Councilmember Coakley.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Coakley. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Ramaley,
Yes.
Beerson.
Yes, motion carries. Item 12B is an ordinance amending Section 150.010 relating to the appointment of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission members, expanding young adult member age parameters. And Ms. Dahman, once again.
Thank you. I do have this one as well. This one, again, is introduction of ordinance. So the recommendation this evening is to introduce the ordinance, and there are 4 votes needed. Again, the background on this commission, the current ordinance limits eligibility to individuals 22 and younger. This is in regards to the young adult positions. So it limits individuals 22 and younger who are enrolled in high school within Hopkins, Minnetonka, or Wayzata districts, or they are in an undergraduate program. Those are the current requirements in order to serve in a young adult's position. The challenge with that is this definition excludes young adults who have graduated, joined the workforce, or pursued non-traditional paths, resulting in limited and inconsistent applicant pools. Our most recent young adult is at the age capacity as it stands today as well. Proposed change, amend the city code to expand eligibility to ages 18 to 24 and remove the school enrollment requirement. And this is consistent with some of our other boards and commissions positions. The intended outcome is to broaden recruitment, promote inclusive representation, and enhance the commission's ability to advise on issues impacting Minnetonka's young adults. Again, it's a motion to introduce, so the recommendation this evening is to introduce the ordinance, and 4 votes are needed. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Dahman. Council questions. Councilmember Coakley.
I have one question. When you say remove the school enrollment requirement, are you saying that if they're not in school, or are you talking about the location of the school?
Ms. Dahman?
Mayor and Councilmember Coakley, it's both. So as long as they are within that 18 to 24 age range, they could serve in this position.
Okay. My clarification, long as they've been in Minnetonka, Hopkins, or Wayzata School District, right? Or no, that doesn't matter?
No.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember
Coakley.
Go ahead, Ms. Dahman. Pardon me.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Coakley. Currently, you have to be serving as an undergraduate or as an undergraduate program or as a student within Hopkins, Minnetonka, or Wayzata districts. Under the new ordinance language, that would be removed.
That's clarity.
Very good. Councilmember Ramaley.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick questions. Then just following up on that, I assume they would have to be residents of Minnetonka, however.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then secondly, you noted that this is bringing this ordinance hopefully into kind of parity with some of the others. So are there any other boards and commissions that don't have this requirement already? Is this just an outlier, or are there other boards or commissions that we should be looking at as well?
Ms. Dahman?
Mayor and Councilmember Ramaley, most of them are similar. This would match the Sustainability Commission's young adult position. Both young sustainability, I believe, DEI, and most definitely are voting members. Park Board is a non-voting member, so I know that's something that we're looking at across the board. However, when it comes to the age requirements, this does better align with the Sustainability Commission.
Okay. Yeah, I would just, I guess, maybe consider, given I know there maybe has been some issues finding young, board and commission members, maybe this is something, it sounds like you're already considering across the board. So, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments or a motion? Councilmember Wilburn, excuse me.
I move introduction of the ordinance amending section 150.010.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Shack?
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Wilburn and a second by Councilmember Shack. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaley,
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is public hearings, and we have one public hearing, and that is for a temporary on-sale liquor license for the Rotary Club of Minnetonka Foundation for a fundraising event at 15,000 Minnetonka Boulevard. I believe we've seen this before, but the date has changed, if I believe if that is correct. So let's see, Ms. Wishnak?
No, you gave the staff report. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, thank you, I'm sorry. I shouldn't do that, should I?
It is your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah, well, we'll see. So maybe I do, maybe I don't.
The
then
date is
this
just from November 8th to December 5th. That's the only change.
Yes, very good. So we have a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Well, I didn't ask. Council, any questions on this? I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, now I will open the public hearing and offer, if anyone would like to come forward and make any comments on this, they're not required to, but it's also an opportunity to pitch the event, and we have a few people watching, so if you'd like to come forward, you're welcome to. Is there anyone? And if there's no one, that's okay. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council for a motion. Councilmember Calvert?
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval to grant the temporary liquor license to the Rotary Club of Minnetonka.
And Councilmember Shack?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second, and I can just say that this is an event being hosted by the Marsh, the liquor sponsored by the Rotary, so it sounds like a really fun event. People should register. You can register with the Marsh.
Very good, yes, please register, and I was there at a previous, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but very nice event, and the liquor sales, wine and beer sales benefit the Marsh, benefit the Rotary Club, which does tremendous work in our community. And it's at the Marsh, which is a very nice venue, and it'll be a very pleasant evening. So I want to encourage, as did Councilmember Shack, please sign up and you'll have a great time. So with that, Councilmember Romaley.
Just wanted to comment, it's on December 5th, since I don't think we actually said the, oh,
Thank you.
Julie did. Okay, great, thank you. Just
Thank you
trying
for
to get
that.
it out there.
So we've had some comments, and we've had, let's see, did we do the motion?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert, and a second by Councilmember Shack. I'm really on top of my game tonight. So Councilmember Calvert and Councilmember Shack. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romaley,
Yes.
Wearsum.
Yes, motion carries. So that brings us to item 14, other business, and we have quite a bit of other business tonight. Item 14A is a resolution certifying the results of the November 4, 2025 municipal general election, and our city clerk, Ms. Kuzman, will provide that report. Ms. Kuzman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm here tonight to certify the results of the November 4th, 2025 municipal general election. The recommendation is a motion to adopt the resolution certifying the results for the November 4th, 2025 municipal general election, and 4 votes will be needed. The canvassing timeline, Minnesota State Statute, Section 205.185, subsection 3, requires that the City Council certify the results for the municipal election between the 3rd and the 10th day of the election. So some fun statistics. Voter turnout was 33.04%. So that's the second highest municipal turnout, since the only other one that's beat us is 2001. So we were really close, but we were trying real hard, but we didn't quite get there, but second highest. The absentee ballots that were accepted were 3,686. Election day turnout was great at 9,586 people. Total number of persons voting were 13,272 voters. The number of registered voters were 39,879, and 293 people registered on election day. So I did a little bit of comparison going back to 2019. You can see all the different percentages. We were high at 33.04%, and all the other numbers we just went over, but it is fun to kind of look over it from a few years past. So how to win with maximum possible threshold. All 3 seats this election won with the first round preferences. So that's called maximum possible threshold. And how you get that is you take the number of votes, so your total number of votes, which were 13,272, and you divide that by 2 plus 1. And that includes all votes, undervotes, and overvotes. So we do get some questions about what are undervotes and what are an overvote. So an overvote is a ranking column. So in that first column is all we were looking at. That ranking column has more than one candidate selected. So that's an overvote. An undervote is a ranking column that was left blank. So again, looking at maximum possible threshold, we're only looking on the first column. Okay? And all three got 50% plus 1 or more of the votes. So now we'll go into each race, and I'll show you how that looked. So starting with the mayor, total ballots cast for all the election was 13,272 because it was the complete city race. So it wasn't any wards. It was at-large A, at-large B, and mayor. So 13,272. To win, you had to get 6,637 votes. And that is our maximum possible threshold. So again, to get that, you take the number of total ballots cast divided by 2 plus 1. And of that, 325 were undervotes for this race, 10 were overvotes, and Rebecca Shack got 7,634 votes. So we did not have to go into any tabulation on this one. So she reached the maximum possible threshold. So she is the declared winner at 57.52%. All right, moving to seat A. Total ballots cast stay the same, 13,272. The max possible threshold stays the same, 6,637. And Deborah Calvert got 10,379 votes. So at a winning of 78.2%. Seat B. The total ballots cast stays the same again. Threshold stays the same. The undervotes were 1,743. Overvotes were 9. And Kimberly Wilburn got 7,773 votes for 58.57%. So all 3 of those were winners with maximum possible threshold. We did not have to go into any tabulation with ranked choice voting. So this is as close to the traditional way of voting that you could get. The only change with this, really, that people ask is on election night. So when you're looking at the Secretary of State's website, there are no undervotes and no overvotes calculated. So they're not put on there. They're there, they just don't report them. So the percentages are always going to be a little bit higher than when we go into max possible threshold, because with our ranked choice voting ordinance, we make those go in. So we take every ballot that was cast in Minnetonka. So it takes a really, it's the hardest way to win with the max possible threshold. So that those percentages will go down when we do the maximum possible threshold. So those were the 3 winners. The resources that you can go and look at all of these results. You can go to the Minnetonka mn.gov elections page. The abstract will be there. The cast vote record will be there. We have our election results page with the history, which is kind of fun to go back and look at. Again, the recommendation for this is a motion to adopt the resolution certifying the results for the 3 races for the November 4th, 2025 municipal election, and 4 votes is needed.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzman. First of all, any questions of staff on this item? I think it's pretty straightforward, but are there questions? Any comments anyone would like to make? I'm just going to be repetitious, and our election staff does a great job, and our election judges do a great job, and our polls are well staffed by friendly, nice, happy people, and that's a big deal. And so I just want to thank everyone again and to say how proud I am of the fact that, Minnetonka's been a leader in the conduct of elections for a long, long time, and that tradition continues, and I just don't want to lose sight of that. So thank you very much. So with that, it's probably time for a motion. Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor. I will make the motion, but first I see a couple of election judges in the audience, so I just want to take a moment to shout out and thank them for their service, and also just congratulate the city on kind of continually improving our turnout over the last since 2019. The increase in turnout has been remarkable. So congratulations to the whole city on that. And with that, I will make the motion to adopt the resolution certifying the results of the November 4th, 2025 municipal general election.
And is there a second? Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Romali and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley?
Yes.
Foster Bolton?
Yes.
Shack?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Calvert?
Yes.
Romali?
Yes.
Ware Summit?
Yes, motion carries. Item 14B is similarly election related, and it is the selection of office and precincts for the post-election review of voting systems and tabulation of results. Ms. Kuzman, you're still up.
Yes, thank you. So we are here to do the post-election, the selection of the offices and precincts for the post-election review. Minnetonka City Code Selection 107.070 requires that at canvass, the chief election official, which is another fancy name for me, the city clerk, must select by lot the office and 2 precincts to be reviewed, set the date and the time and place for the post-election review. The purpose of this is to review the voting systems and tabulation of the results. The scope and conduct of the test, the post-election review must be conducted in public with a sample of ballots cast for 1 ranked choice voting election for the municipal office. The process is using the actual ballots cast in 2 precincts that will be selected shortly. The judges of the election will conduct a hand count of the ballots cast for the office selected, and it will be reviewed. The judges will count and record the ballots cast. So now we will come over. Kelsey is the senior election specialist, and we'll pick 1 office and 2 precincts. So we'll do that in front of you. All right, office first. Large CB, and then 2 precincts. (4D) and 4B. All right, so now those have been drawn. The recommendation is to schedule the post-election review for November 18th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the Minnetonka Council Chambers with the selected offices and precincts, and 4 votes is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzman. Are there any questions for staff? The only question I have is, this is a public process, and anybody who wants to come and observe this can do so. Is that correct?
Correct. It is a public meeting, and we put it in the Sun Sailor, so anybody who wants to come is welcome to come and watch the hand count of those 2 precincts.
All right, so that's a week from tomorrow.
Next Tuesday, correct.
Yes, very good. All right, so council, we need 4 votes. Is there a motion? Councilmember Calvert?
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the selection of the office precincts for post-election review of voting systems and tabulation.
Very good. Is there a second? And Councilor Romali?
I'll second.
All right.
Oh, and I think the motion is to schedule the post-election review on Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the council chambers.
Very good. And the office and precincts have been selected. So,
I'll second again.
all right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Romali. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romali.
Yes.
Wisdom.
Yes, motion carries. Item 14C is modifications to Applewood Point, Glen Haven, and Shady Oak Crossing tax increment financing districts. And Ms. Wishnak, that is your report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have a number of TIF districts that we're going to talk about tonight, and it's really about modifying those districts. And before I get off into talking about TIF and all of that, I think I should just give a little bit, and I know you know this, but perhaps the public does not know about tax increment financing. So basically, and I'm really going to make this simplistic, what you're doing with a new project is taking new tax money, new tax dollars, and using it for some, and in Minnetonka it's typically for a public purpose. It's the but-for test. But for your public assistance, this project would not happen. So sometimes we're paying for affordable housing, sometimes we're paying for extraordinary development costs or construction or what have you, to help the project move forward and then provide the project to the public. But for a period of time, the city commits to certain payments, and that is kind of what you're talking about tonight. Those payments have to be made to the, whatever the, maybe there's a bond issuance or something that goes along with that. But what do you do with extra pooled money that sits in the TIF district? So I'll go through all of that, but I just wanted to give a basic starting point for people to understand what happens with tax increment. So the motion that you'll see is we're going to modify the tax increment plans for each of these districts. So Applewood Point, Glen Haven tax increment district, and then the Shady Oak tax increment. And I want to reflect a little bit in 2010 and 2011, and many of you weren't on the council at that point, but there was actually a jobs bill and there was legislation created to use TIF districts to support long-term development. And in that case, we had St. Therese in Glen Lake as a part of the jobs bill, TIF legislation. Fast forward to 2021, again, we got that legislation. This allows the city to pool tax increment from its districts to then put into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Now, on top of that, think about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's intended to help people that have incomes of 80% of area median income or less. And again, I'll do the math for you. It's easy right now. The area median income is about $100,000. So 80% and below, 80,000 or below, depends on household size and all of that. There's lots of charts that go along with that, but that's a good way to think about 80%. When we say 80% AMI, we're typically talking about $80,000 or less. And I think that's confusing to some people when we talk about affordable housing. What kind of salary are we talking about? But it's quite a bit of money in terms of household. So again, that legislation occurred, and currently the trust fund has an uncommitted balance of 2.3. So if you looked at the ledger for that account, there's lots of money sitting there, but you have made various promises to various projects in the city. Some of those projects were tied to affordable housing development. Some was tied to rental assistance. We did the Pathways program. We reallocated money because of its popularity. So there's been lots of money promoted there, as well as homeless initiatives. So again, you know all this, but I just wanted to remind for the audience sake to understand what we're doing here. So again, this legislation passed, and it is allowed for the city to do this through 2026. And when you talked about the tax increment report, we do a management report every other year. And in that management report, it talks about different strategies and different ideas that you might consider as a city council to place some of this money in for various reasons like affordable housing, or perhaps you want to do redevelopment money. There's stipulations on how you can use the money. So we're asking the council to look at doing this transfer of money, and it would allow the city to retain the increment, but also we could use that money past 26. So this action would actually give us more time to use the pooled increment. And the estimates right now in the TIF management report, it said about $3.3 million would be available for affordable housing. Now, I also want to tell you what maybe the other side of the story is. So what if we don't do this, right? If we, decertify the district for any reason, that sort of thing. And so I'll walk through each district and tell you what kind of the different impacts would be. So in Glen Haven, again, this is in the Glen Lake area. And if you remember, we actually had special legislation to go through 2029 because there was such a downturn in 2008, 2009. We were having trouble with the TIF district, so it got extended at that time. And the estimated balance at that available for the Housing Trust Fund would be about $2.1 million. We actually can't modify the district. We can't alter the time frame because there's still a commitment for the bonds for Glen Lake, the Glen Lake area. So we cannot decertify early, if you will. So there's actually not an impact or a benefit to the general tax levy if you decertify it. So that's kind of off the table. The second district is the Shady Oak district. Remember, this is the Shady Oak Crossing project that sits on the edge of Minnetonka and Hopkins, kind of right at Main Street. This district has an obligation for a pay-as-you-go note, which is that promise to pay for certain things through 2044. And it does have to decertify at the end of 2047. We have about $80,000 in that district to transfer by the end of 2026. Again, there would be no additional tax capacity that you could capture in this district. So again, not a huge benefit to the general fund if you decertify early. Well, you can't decertify early, I should say. Applewood Point is probably the one district where you have some of that availability. This has a pay-as-you-go note that's needed through 2026. That modification would extend the term of the district for 3 years. And I should maybe not say extend the term. You're extending, or you're not decertifying early, is basically the premise. The modification would also allow the city to retain about $460,000 for affordable housing. The opposite view of that, if you decertify it early, you'd have about $268,000 additional in the general fund. So this is one where you do have some impact to the general fund if you decertify early and don't take the TIF pooling for affordable housing. I'm sure that all of this makes sense. If you're having trouble, though, we do have our financial consultant with us tonight, so he can kind of go through some of these things in detail if you want. We also, by the end of the year, will bring back another resolution. This has to do with the Boulevard Gardens TIF district, and I think we have to find out kind of how comfortable you are with these modifications, and then also we would bring that back after this meeting before the end of the year. So again, back to your motion. It's a series of resolutions, 1, 2, 3. You do need 4 votes to affect each of the resolutions. You can do it in one motion, Mayor, if you wish, and I'll turn it back to you at this point for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnak. Council, there was a lot in that staff report. Do you have questions for Ms. Wishnak or for staff? Anyone? Councilmember Foster Bolton.
Yeah, that's a lot. So, okay. So I'm going to try to figure this, or to explain how I understand it. Because, so basically, we already have $1.6 million available for affordable the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
2.3.
2.3. I'm already lost.
That's right. That's a current balance of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Okay. So in the packet, it says that if we approve the modifications, the city would have $3.298 million more than could be used for affordable housing. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. And so total is like $4.9 million that we're going to transfer to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Or for affordable housing anyway.
Do you want me to go one by one, or do you want to get it all on the record first?
I'm trying to just get like the whole picture.
Right. If I may.
Go ahead.
Yep. Ms. Wishneck.
Yes, Councilmember Foster Bolton. Each district has its own pooled income.
Yeah.
It all depends on when you take action and how much money is available at the time you take action. So I would say that in this consideration, I think it's helpful to look at this page. So you have the 1.6 million of TIF pooled, and then by the time you're done with Glenhaven, you'll have 2.1, and then you'll have 80,000 on Shady Oak, but the estimated balance is 1.5. So there's kind of two things going on. You're having to change the TIF plan now because the legislation has a expiration date. You're starting to have pooling over time. And so depending on how property values fluctuate, what the projections are, when the note is paid off in that particular TIF district, all of that can affect how much pooled income you can have. So the TIF plan amendment allows you to collect the TIF pooled money for this purpose, even though you're collecting the TIF pooling in future years. So
Okay.
if that makes
I
any
kind
sense.
of get it.
Mhm.
I kind of get it. The one of the questions I had was, so when you say there's not, it wouldn't be, so it's either going into affordable housing, like sort of that long term, we're going to do this, or we could increase the tax base, as Mr. Funk said this morning, so that the taxpayers would pay less. I mean, we could buy down our tax levy or whatever, lower our taxes essentially. And you say it's sort of a wash. I mean, do you have a number?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may. Sorry.
You may.
Thank you. Councilmember Foster Bolton, it's on this slide here. So the only district that applies to, so Glenhaven doesn't have that opportunity and neither does Shady Oak. The only district that applies to is Applewood Point. And if you decertify early,
Less than $3.
it's the $3 in taxes.
Okay, got
That's
it.
the impact.
Okay. Sorry, I have another one. Can I just keep
Yes,
going?
go ahead.
So when we say we're going to put this away for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and you mentioned some stipulations.
There are.
What are they?
Ms. Wishneck.
Councilmember Foster Bolton, when you set up the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, you as a council passed a resolution to be compliant with the way the state law enables a city to have a trust fund. In that trust fund, you say 80% area median income and below, and I'm being general about my comments. There's lots of stuff in the resolution, but that's the easiest way I can explain. Your purposes of affordable housing typically will roll 80% and below.
Okay, so 80% and below, that could be, my specific question is going to be when we talk about homes within reach. Like, could some of that money be used in some of those scenarios?
Ms. Wishneck.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Foster Bolton. If you have that parameter on the program. So, for instance, if you say, I want to open the program for that particular program, the grant program, to people who make 100% of area median income, that fund cannot be used. If you say, yes, I want to use it for 80% and below, absolutely.
Okay, so it can be used for anything?
80% and below. Yep.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foster Bolton. Other questions, Councilmember Mailey, I anticipate?
Thank you, Mayor. No, just I have a quick question or kind of edification question is, when we talk about the increment, so I think it might, for me, it was a hard, and I'm still work to grasp what the increment is. So just so people who are looking at this understand what we're talking about when we're talking about, like the TIF, what the actual mechanism is. So my understanding, again, is that when you establish a TIF district, you set a baseline of what your taxes are at that time. And then what you're doing is capturing the increase in value that follows the development or redevelopment of that district. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you capture that increase for a specific purpose, whether it be redevelopment or affordable housing or other allowable uses that are ordained in TIF legislation.
Correct.
Okay. And so what the pay-go versus other forms can mean that when we say that we pool that, then we're pooling that increment. That means that we're taking that slice, that increased value that we get in tax dollars from all three of those districts then and putting them into the affordable. Is that right? Or can you just clarify that for me?
Mayor and Councilmember Romele, I would say you're taking a percentage of the increment. So you're not taking all of the increment, you're taking a percentage of the increment that was allowed to be taken by law, how the pooled legislation for our community was issued.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
Council, other questions? I mean, these are complex topics, so don't be shy. Anyone else have questions? Ms. Wishnak, thank you for your indulgence. So we've got the questions answered. And we have a staff recommendation for each of these tax increment financing districts. You have comments or a perspective, or what would you like to do? A motion? Any of the above? Councilor Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just say that, this isn't free money, but it is money that we haven't accounted for in many ways, and it helps us further a lot of our priorities. And, if we look at these individually, the only one that would, potentially be able to come back on the rolls is a fairly minimal impact. But I think it's important, this was brought up to me at an event recently, that it's, it does come at some kind of a cost to the other taxing entities and to our general fund. But when I, in my mind, kind of do a cost-benefit analysis, what we're able to do and the good we're able to do with this money is well worth the cost on the other end, which is relatively small. So I'm supportive of this, and I want to be sure that we consider these on a case-by-case basis, and we may have different perspectives for different TIF districts, but for these, I think this is the right move.
Thank you, Councilor Shack. Other comments, council members? Councilor Mailey?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what Councilmember Mayor-elect Shack has, her comments. I also would like to say, note that, the people that are impacted, the people that these programs are helping are basically, teacher level salaries. So if we're thinking $80,000 annual salary for a single person, one person household, at that 80% AMI, it's really kind of helping our young professionals, a lot of us who have children maybe who are starting out who otherwise couldn't afford to rent in Minnetonka. So I think it's helping a wide variety of people, and that's exactly what we need to have in order to continue to thrive, attract young people and young families. So, you know, given, again, the cost-benefit analysis that Councilmember Shack noted, for me, I think, you know, this makes a lot of sense, and I'll be voting for it.
Thank you. Other comments? Anyone or a motion? Councilor Wilburn?
I move that we adopt the resolutions approving a modification to the tax increment financing plan for the Applewood Point, Glen Haven, and Shady Oak Crossing tax increment financing districts.
Very good. Councilor Calvert?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to make a comment because I wanted to, but I wanted to see if I want to make sure everyone had a chance to speak. So that was good, and we're all good. But Ms. Wishnak covered this a bit, but you know, tax increment financing is a challenging concept, and Councilor Shack touched on it a bit. But you know, tax increment financing is where development adds value to a parcel. So I like to use numbers, and so let's say someone was going to come in and build an apartment building, and they bought a piece of land for $1 million, and the city's collecting tax on that land based upon the value of $1 million. And then the developer builds a building, and the new value of the land and the building is $50 million. So the increment is the difference, $49 million. So the city would collect a lot more taxes on a $49 or a $50 million property than it would on a $1 million property. So that's the increment. And the concept with tax increment financing, well, without the development, but for the development, that incremental tax collection would not exist. And so in some ways it feels like free money. And in some ways for a short period of time it is free money because it's money that wouldn't exist without the development. But it's not always free money because the only way it would be truly free money is if you presumed that nothing else would ever get developed there. But in reality, valuable property does get developed, and so it may not be developed this year or next year, but it would get developed. So there is a cost to the public because so the money is not free because that tax could have gone into the tax base and reduced the taxes for everyone else. But I support tax increment financing. It's been a primary tool of our city to make our city more affordable. And one of our 6 pillars of our strategic plan is we want to be a welcoming and inclusive community. Well, if you're unaffordable, you can't be welcoming and inclusive. And so I think it's a great tool. I support this tonight, but you know, it's a hard to understand tool. And I know that some people think, well, then, I mean, one, they think it's a bad idea because there is no free money, and you're right, there is no free money. On the other hand, it makes our community more attractive. It enables us to have people who teach school and our firefighters and our police officers and other middle-income jobs, living wage middle-income jobs to afford to live in our community. So this is, it's a hard concept. It's an important tool for our city, and I am supportive, but I wanted to provide that little comment. So I hope that was helpful to at least someone. So we've got a motion and a second. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romalee.
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is item 14D is a concept plan for English Rose Suites at 2000 Hopkins Cross Road. And Ms. Thomas, that is your report.
Thank you, Mayor Weersum and council members. As you said, this evening the council is going to review some concept plans for English Rose Suites at 2000 Hopkins Cross Road. You're being asked to provide feedback on the concept plan. There's no formal votes that are needed this evening. So as you are aware, likely, this site is located in the southwest kind of quadrant of the I-394 Hopkins Crossroad interchange. It's roughly 2.5 acres in size. It's zoned R1, which is low-density residential, and it's similarly guided in the 2040 Comprehensive Guide Plan for low-density residential development. Low density, if you'll recall, is 1 to 4 units per acre. I apologize, I'm missing a slide here, but I hope you can all envision the school that is located on that property currently. The Oak Knoll Elementary School building, which was constructed in 1920, and then an addition was made on the south side of the building in the 1950s. That school closed in 1982, and the building was then occupied by Omegon, which was an adolescent residential drug treatment facility. And Omegon closed, I believe, in 2022. The Excelsior Group has submitted concept plans for redevelopment of the site. Each of those plans involves building new 10-bedroom licensed residential care homes for people living with dementia and other, or Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, which happened on October 30th, the Excelsior Group and English Rose, the care home provider, hosted a meeting at the end of September. Roughly 20 area residents attended that meeting. 4 concepts were shown to the group. The first 2 on the screen here contemplate preserving the oldest section, that 1920 section of the building. And then 2 plans called for the removal of that building. In general, those area residents did express support for the residential use of the property, this specific type of residential use, and they preferred those concepts that removed the existing building. Specifically, folks noted they were concerned about how that building and its use may impact high levels of traffic already on Hopkins Crossroad. The Planning Commission then reviewed these same 4 concepts on October 30th, and I would say, and if you've read the minutes or watched the meeting, there was general consensus that there is certainly merit to a concept moving forward to a full development process, an application process. The type of use is needed, and the property is certainly large enough to accommodate it. Several commissioners noted that it would be nice to retain the old building, but that its removal and replacement with something different did make sense. They indicated that they thought either the 2-building or 3-building uses may work. Some more specific commissioner comments were with regard to the location and the design of parking areas. Commissioners suggesting that consideration be given to not only convenience but maintenance of those parking areas, consideration for natural landscaping throughout, and then a general appreciation for a more modern structure design. Following the Planning Commission meeting, then a 5th concept was submitted. It was the very last item in your packet on this subject. It's shown here on the far right. It's really, again, a 2-home project, 2 10-bedroom homes, taking into consideration some of that feedback that was received at the Planning Commission meeting. As the council is aware, at the concept level process, we as staff do not have details to review or evaluate for you. For example, I can't tell you how the stormwater is going to work. I don't know how many trees are on the site or how many would be removed under this proposal. Really, the purpose is to get your feedback to help inform the developer's future decisions, to give guidance on what the council may like to see if a project comes back as a formal application. If one of these concepts does move forward, it would likely just require two types of applications. The first would be a subdivision to locate the different homes on different properties. And then the second type of application would be a conditional use permit. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, this property is zoned R1. And within our R1 district, under the current zoning ordinance, licensed residential care facilities are conditionally permitted for 7 to 10 residents. Meaning that if the facilities came forward and they met those conditions that are outlined in code, the city would be obligated to approve them. As you also know, facilities that serve 6 or fewer residents are allowed on the zoning district by state law without any specific city review. Tonight, again, staff is requesting that the council provide your general feedback and then answer the following questions. Is there merit for a concept to proceed to a formal review? If yes, which one, if you have a preference? If there's not merit at all, why? And then what would make the concept better, or put another way, what would you like to see specifically evaluated or specifically considered in a future proposal? Again, no formal action or votes are needed this evening. So I would turn it back to the mayor and to the developer.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And before we ask the developer to come forward, I'm going to ask council if they have any questions for staff. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking for it, and in the dim recesses of my memory, somewhere in one of our documents it talked about the county wanting some additional right-of-way in anticipation of a possible trail on the west side of Hopkins Crossroad, I think. Am I remembering that right?
Mayor Wiersum, Councilmember Calvert, and Ms. Wishneck may recall, typically the county doesn't weigh in at the concept plan phase, but they certainly would be part of the review if this moved forward. I do know that the developer has already reached out to the county to provide them with some of these concepts.
Okay.
Other questions, Councilor Shack?
Thank you, Mayor. I think in considering this, I want to make sure we're clear on the conditional use permit that was obtained in 1983 and then ran with the property through. Now that has expired. So if the building were kept, any use of that would be subject to the new council approval on how that would be used. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Other questions? All right, then seeing none, I'm going to ask the developer to come forward, and if you have a report for us or something you'd like to share, please tell us what you want us to know.
Hello there, my name is Joshua Wirt. I, with my colleague Jill, are just going to take a couple minutes to tell you about our thoughts on this concept. So I'll start. I'm a resident of Minnetonka, born and raised in Minnetonka, been here ever since. I'm also the owner of a company called English Rose. And this company was founded in 1997, and we've spent the last almost 3 decades now helping families in the Twin Cities, throughout the Twin Cities, navigate what is one of the hardest journeys in life, which is the journey of dementia. And we do that with excellence. And over the course of the last 3 decades, we've earned ourselves a very amazing national reputation, and unbelievably even an international reputation. We've had people come in from Europe to study our model and to bring it to places outside of the United States. And that's the last 30 years. The next 30 years, we're going to be even busier, because I think, as you know, the aging population, or the population of seniors, people, older adults, age 60 or 65 and older is exploding. In America, all over the world, but in America, between 1920 and 1960, so 40 years, there's going to be a 70% increase in older adults. So if you divide that by 4, you say, okay, what's going to happen per decade? Per decade, we're going to have if my math is right, I'm not perfect at math, about a 17% increase in older adults every single decade. So by 2060, 25% of America, 1 in 4 people, will be 65 years or older. So it's quite a demographic shift. But the statistics are even more astonishing in the city of Minnetonka. So in America, we're going to see a 17% increase every decade of the older adult population. But in Minnetonka, by your own reports, we're going to see a 40% increase in the next 10 years. And so we are going to be busy, and I'd be honored to be part of Minnetonka's journey in the future. English Rose, we're very unique. There's really nothing else like us. There's others that try to be similar. There's copycat models out there here in the Twin Cities, but there's really nothing like English Rose. And there's 2 keystones to what make us unique. The first is our amazing staff, but our staffing model. So in the state of Minnesota, in long-term care facilities, according to Governor Walz, I forget the official name of his Older Adults Commission, the average caregiver to resident ratio in long-term care facilities is an astonishing 1 to 18. 1 caregiver for every 18 residents. Now that's all long-term care facilities, dementia care, assisted living, nursing homes, etc. At English Rose, we have 1 staff member for every 2 to 3 residents. And so we have a very high level of care. It's the care that everyone deserves. It's the care you would want your family members to have. And we've kind of invented it and perfected it. The other thing that makes, the other keystone I would say, is our facilities. Dementia care in America, I know the lobbies can be flashy, but it's kind of a warehousing model, okay, with that kind of staffing, okay? They're very large facilities. They're nothing like being home. They're institutional, but that's not the way it is at English Rose. So we have a very thoughtful and residential feel to our environments. These are very small homes that have elegant architecture and beautifully and well landscaped yards with as much space as possible for our residents to spend outside and for them to spend outside with their family members and the neighbors in the neighborhood. And it just has a very neighborhood feel, because as people age, they may lose their memories, they may lose other abilities like the ability to speak and the ability to move, but they don't lose the ability to feel. And so we want our residents to feel loved and to feel like they're still in home. And so that's what we provide at English Rose. And as some of you know, because I've been here before, I would be honored to be part of Minnetonka's journey and ongoing success at being a dementia-friendly city by bringing and opening up the first ever English Rose dementia care home in your city. And I could tell you a little bit about why I'm excited about this property, but I'm not going to do that because I think Jill will do a good job showing you about how special this property is. And so I am excited, and I'm glad to be in front of you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. I'm Jill Kiner with the Excelsior Group, and we are English Rose's development partner on the site. As Joshua said, I think I'll start by just talking about why is this site the right location for this project. As Ms. Thomas noted, that the English Rose homes that we propose are classified as licensed care facilities. So in a residential district, which is where English Rose would like to be located, the homes are permitted through a conditional use permit. And it's challenging to find a site that meets those requirements. A couple of key factors: it must be on a collector road. Each home needs to be on a full 1 acre, and then of course there needs to be sufficient space for parking. But again, when you find sites like that, they need to have that residential feel that makes English Rose feel like home. So this site that we're here to discuss today at 2000 Hopkins Crossroad does meet both English Rose's needs and the requirements of the CUP. In addition to that, the project has received really strong neighborhood support, both at our community meeting that we've hosted, follow-up conversations that we've had at the Planning Commission meeting. And the support we've seen is both for English Rose's model, but also for the location of the English Rose product at that site. And we received favorable feedback and good feedback from the Planning Commission as well. So we're really looking forward to presenting our concept today and receiving additional feedback and guidance from the council. As Ms. Thomas reported, we have provided 4 concept plans for review in the past, and then we have added in a 5th based on some of the feedback that we've received from the neighborhood, from the Planning Commission, and then from the English Rose site team as well about how it's going to function really well for them. So in advance of that discussion, I want to take a minute just to highlight the differences between each of the plans. So starting with, maybe I'll talk about the benefits and challenges of each concept plan individually. So all plans feature single-story, single-family homes that are about 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. We have completed a tree study and anticipate minimal impact to the tree canopy based on all of the plans that you'll look at today. Preliminary engineering indicates that we have sufficient space to manage stormwater on site, and we plan to utilize native plantings throughout our landscaping plan. There is a small wetland to the southeast corner of the site, so we'll need to leave sufficient space to appropriately design around and preserve that wetland space. So looking at, I think we'd like to start with the 2-home plan is our preferred plan option. It receives strong community support, and a 2 or 3 home plan received the most support from the Planning Commission as well. It also creates that residential feel that is critical to the English Rose success. So we've advanced the plans based on feedback, as I mentioned, and then I'll show the cluster home, this last one. So we call this the cluster house plan, and some of the feedback we got in the neighborhood meeting is that you don't want it to be so long that it starts to feel kind of institutional, right? We're also trying to make it fit on a site so that it functions nicely. You can see multiple entrances, somewhere you can bring all your groceries in, and then also somewhere where you can have a more formal entry for guests and for residents. And so this is kind of our favorite here. It's got plenty of parking, and then just breaks up some of that, the footprint of the homes a little bit. It's really important to English Rose to have outdoor gathering and activity space, things like walking paths, seated areas, raised garden beds. And so we are showing that in all of the plans, but in the homes where we keep the existing building, everything does just become a little bit more compressed. And so that outdoor space, it's not as robust, and it's not the ideal situation for English Rose. We also really like the suggestions that we received from the Planning Commission and the neighbors about paying homage to the existing building if it were to come down, whether that is through reuse of some of the materials, creating some sort of a memorial marker, or maybe incorporating a memorial or naming or something like that into the garden space, but really preserving some of the history of that building, in whatever plan we do choose to go forward with. We also know that building preservation is important to the city from a sustainability standpoint and a heritage preservation perspective. We are also lovers of old buildings. So we did spend a significant amount of time studying options for reusing the existing building on the site. One thing I'll point out is that it's not a big site. So in this home plan, if you see the building, the distance between the corner of the building and a resident's bedroom window is probably maybe 3 car lengths, right? So What's important about that is that whatever use is on this site, it really needs to support the concept of English Rose, right? They need to be synergistic uses, because that experience is going to be very tied together. And, we are changing, we'd be changing the model from a very residential feel to something that's a little bit more mixed use. So we just want to be really cognizant that the uses would work well together. So with that thought in mind, our favorite idea for reuse was to use the building as an adult day program of some kind. So maybe somewhere where, family members could bring a loved one who needs, 24-hour care, give them a break, give the loved one an opportunity to socialize and get out of the house. And that would work well with English Rose. I will say that the building itself needs significant renovation, particularly if it were ever to be used by seniors from an ADA compliance standpoint, widening of doorways, a lot of work. But maybe more importantly is that as we reached out to these providers and talked to them, we learned that they couldn't afford to cover even just the operating expenses of this space, which we, even if we were to provide it rent-free. And the same would go for English Rose. It's expensive to maintain old buildings, and so reuse in that way financially would not be feasible for any of the existing operators that we reached out to. So then we looked at our next option and thought maybe a daycare could work, and we get this intergenerational space here. What we learned after reaching out to daycare providers is that daycares do require, of this size, require about 35 to 40 parking spaces. So the reason we provided 2 site plans is just to show you that we're trying to figure out how to fit all of that on one site. We have not gotten to a plan yet that works for both users. But, we iterated a little bit, put it out here for feedback. I will say that this plan, and Ms. Thomas spoke to it as well, was not well received at our community meeting either. Retaining a building and combining multiple uses on site would also likely require variances and flexibility from the city, as well as financial assistance to renovate the building. So, which is why we wanted to discuss all of these options early with the council and understand which plan has the most merit to advance for a formal application and review. We're here for questions.
Thank you very much. Council questions? Councilor Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, Mr. Ward, I just want to thank you for being a good member of our community and being receptive to feedback in the past, and you've certainly done right by the community in the past few years, and I really appreciate that. My question was, if I'm remembering correctly, when you were last here, and I understand the finances might not make this work, but I recall that perhaps that concept plan included like a music barn or something like that, or some community art space. Is that a viable, or even is that just so pie in the sky for this
No, I
school?
mean, I call it the castle on the hill. You should always know what your vision is. You may never get there, but you're at least pointing towards it. My castle on the hill is a lot of acres, houses, a very amazing common space that is used by both the community as well as the residents to bring us together, that, including organic farming, horses, a daycare center, and a day program for adults. That's my dream. That's the vision of what's called there's none in America yet, it's called a dementia village. And this site's not big enough for that. And of course, when we started, I was like, oh my God, this has this amazing old building on it. Let's do one of these concepts. I would love a common building. With 2 homes though, instead of like 6, which is the dream, the need for a common building isn't quite as big, though I would love to, we could do interesting things here, especially when it comes to community education and community engagement. But we, English Rose, can't pay the operating costs. the dollars per square foot that my partners need just to pay the bills, no rent. It's confusing to me when you say that. No rent means you have to pay rent plus operating costs. That's your actual check you write at the end of the month. They're like, even if we go to rent to zero, you just can't even cover the operating costs. And so there's no income generation from that building. And so then we started looking at compatible uses, not discos or restaurants, but daycare. And then it just got really cramped and tight, but we're open to it. I mean, it's still part of the vision. It's still looking towards that vision. I'm still looking for that big piece of land. I want you to know this isn't the last. Hopefully you'll hear from me. So.
And I think you also said you wanted to make sure that for the experience of English Rose, that it doesn't feel like you're entering into a parking lot, right? I mean, making it feel like home for the residents and their family members is such a critical component of that, is another reason why you gravitated toward the 2-bedroom as being the right concept.
Even the neighbors were like, the building's very, as cool as it is, if it was in an urban environment, it would for sure be saved. But as cool as it is, it's kind of institutional looking from the road. You don't know if that was a school or some other kind of place. And so having that be the biggest thing you see, and then having these houses tucked behind them, it's not quite what our brand is about. Our brand is more pastoral and nature focused. So we had a hard time resolving that. Then when we started talking about all the parking that would be needed for any kind of high, use that can actually pay the rent, then the parking lot gets huge. Now you're really not coming to a residential, you're not bringing mom home. You're bringing mom to this institutional vibe environment. So, but it's still,
Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for kind of bringing this forward. I also appreciate the fact that you're trying to bring this type of care to Minnetonka. It's something obviously that we're going to be needing in now and in the future as we go on. So this area actually does have a probably significant history. It was kind of obliterated. 394 kind of took a lot of it out. So, Oak Knoll School was founded in 1920. And so you have, people, despite, the neighbors kind of, understandable hesitation. There is, kind of a historical place for that in this neighborhood, and it was a significant neighborhood back in the day. And so what really caught my eye about it was actually, again, your discussion. I thought it was so intriguing about the dementia villages, which then I subsequently went back and looked at quite a bit in terms of the European models, and there's even one in Canada on a 4-acre site right now. So there is, kind of, it's starting to move this way, which I was really heartened about. And so between that and what Councilmember Shack brought up about, the barn concept from the first one, I was out walking most recently yesterday there, and like you said, it's not a huge building. It looks bigger right now because of kind of that terrible addition that was done later. But the building itself is built into a slope. And so the front facing to the road is kind of higher level, but when you get behind it, it is a single story, pretty much. So, I'm wondering, when you're talking about it's an institutional feel, I'm not sure it would be so much from the behind area, especially if parking was in front. And so, personally, as somebody, whose family has been here for multiple generations in the Minnetonka area, it's really sad to me that we have lost so many of our historical buildings over the years, and it really pains me to, the prospect of losing another one. And so it brought to mind something that I saw at the League of Minnesota Cities, which I'm not sure if you're aware of, a Sandstone. In Sandstone, Minnesota, they preserved a derelict and a pretty much abandoned school in Sandstone, and put together a coalition of funders everybody from the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency to the Blandin Foundation and other people, Climate, to come forward and put forward a package where they created 34 workforce units in that building. So I understand that the high use for a daycare, an adult daycare, would be difficult for the parking, but I am wondering if consideration had been given to possibly putting together a package like that, where it could be either affordable units for seniors, income qualified seniors who need care, or staff who are going to be providing the care on site, because we know that, I'm sure that you're better than most, but it's not the most highly compensated profession, and so that a lot of those people may well qualify. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I understand the challenges and the difficulties. My husband has done historic preservation in Washington, D.C., and is in commercial real estate here. But, I guess I would really love to see some way to either at least save a facade or, somehow reuse it, putting together a funding, and I don't know how, but, if it would be possible to maybe take a second look at that, it would be a real shame to lose that historical building in my view. And so if there's, ways that perhaps the city, can help, we've done that with other affordable housing projects with, trying to steer people towards putting together funding packages and stacks and things like that. I just want to put it out there. So that would be my kind of comments, questions, and reaction.
Thank you.
Ms. Wishnak, did you have a comment? I was just kind of reading body language here.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. And just to help understand, when we knew this building was on the market, we had done our own research, very much in the vein of Councilor O'Malley's discussion. We did talk to the historic architect that you're actually referring to. We sit on a board together, so I'm very familiar with her and her talents of restoring buildings. She had a similar reaction as the current developer did in terms of the finances. It is a difficult uphill battle. Thinking about housing was definitely on the mind of the city as this property came to market. So we have talked at length with the developer about trying to look at any and all options. So definitely we were on the same path as you were in thinking about this, but we're getting more information as we go, and the conversation remains open as I understand it.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnak. Other comments or questions? I guess, Councilor Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I watched the Planning Commission meeting, and I work for the city of St. Paul, where we have a greater number of historic buildings, and there have been in recent years occasions where, say, what some people would call, say, a historic library has been, it was decided to take it down and build basically an ADA accessible building, and there was great public outcry, and these are difficult things, and I greatly value historic buildings. I also know that sometimes you reach a point of diminishing returns, and if it's just not economically viable, it just there's not much you can do about it. I do think that from the road, it is very institutional looking, and while it's a historic building and has historic value to the city, I've seen other buildings with more sort of architectural interest, and I don't know that building, I mean, just looking, I went there, I looked in the front door, and just, ADA compliance issues just before you even get to the front door. Once you're in the front door, I mean, you just in the vestibule, right at the front door, there's immediately staircases going up and going down. Just the entryway itself would have to be completely redone, and that's before you even get into the interior, which, as I understand, is not in great condition. So, you know, if we were to reuse it, and this is speaking as a recovering violin teacher who lived in rural America, and I taught in a turn of the century school building in a rural community. And so I understand the value of these buildings and the way that they can be reused. But even that building, I think they were going to struggle to keep it for use by the public. And so I'm right now, personally, I'd like to see more, maybe even pictures of the interior. That would help me decide if it's really salvageable, and just know more about, you know, the cost it might take, and you know, forming coalitions to do something like this is sort of out of my realm of experience, and it seems like it would be a complex effort. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I'm also not married to keeping the building there if it's just unsalvageable, because just keeping it there to keep it there, if we can't find a use for it and we can't find the money to put it to public use. I mean, I'm always thinking of art spaces, and it's something that I don't think that we necessarily have enough of in Minnetonka. So, I mean, I'm always looking for something like that, but that's hard to turn a profit on. So one of my questions really has to do with the tree canopy. So I'm very gratified to hear that you're going to preserve, you know, have minimal impact on the tree canopy. In the back of the building, there are really just pretty breathtaking oak trees, very, very mature oaks. And my question would be, would any of those be coming down? And then other questions have to do with the sort of drive aisle. So it looks to me like you're keeping the drive aisle more or less along Hopkins Crossroads and then to the north, sort of along the path that it currently has. And so my questions have to do with putting more of a boulevard, having more trees along the Hopkins Crossroads, because it's pretty open to see the school, and then thinking if the county were to say want additional right-of-way, just making sure that we have space to preserve some green space along the road, which really helps retain the character of the city, which has a boulevard feel on most roads. And this throws the image that's on the screen, kind of throws a monkey wrench, because I was thinking of the 4 concepts, and it's been wonderful to have more than one concept, and it's very different. So it almost gives us too much to think about. But it's very interesting. So looking at this, the image that we're looking on now, can you explain sort of how it works? I'm a little, my sister's the visual artist, I'm the musician, so I'm having trouble understanding what I'm looking at on the screen right now compared to what we were looking at before.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. So this is showing one shared access point that is an existing access point to get to both homes. And you're correct that as you go plan north, that would follow the line of where the existing parking lot and roadway is, thereby minimizing impact to tree canopy. We're showing what's there as a gatehouse right now in the middle, and English Rose will need somewhere to store snow blowers and rakes and garden hoses for the community gardens and things like that. So we thought maybe some sort of a structure there. And then from that gatehouse, there's a pathway to get to each of the homes. And we are showing 2 separate entrances. Again, as I mentioned in the presentation, it'll be important to have the main entrance for residents and guests, and then the functional entrance as well, because these homes don't have garages where you can, bring your groceries in, for example. We are showing parking spaces in that dark brown color. And I don't know if it's too hard to flip back to some of our inspiration images, but as we thought about how to do parking here in a way that provides, multiple spaces, but makes it feel residential, we pulled up some of these images as potential inspiration for that. So that's kind of what you're seeing in that, and why it's broken up into multiple places versus being a parking lot, per se, right in front of the homes. And then, we completely agree with you about the trees and wanting to have some screening from Hopkins Cross Road. We mentioned that these buildings really should be built on main artery roads, but again, for the residents, they want it to feel like a neighborhood. So building up the tree canopy, it's not there today, but putting in new trees for the future is also really critical to the success of English Rose, so we share that vision. Same with retaining existing trees. I don't have a map showing where each one of them is, but I can say generally where we've put the buildings today is where it's pretty flat and grass space today, and have really stayed away from the existing trees, which is kind of more where you're seeing the dark green shading in the back there. And you see some pretty large setbacks. We've got 50 feet in the front, and I think
so.
another 40
Looking
in the rear.
looking at the actual building, so it looks like you had wings. If it was the long, you'd have sort of an east wing and a west wing, and they're sort of coupled. They're parallel in the new rendering is what it looks to be. All right.
Yeah, and you can see as Joshua's team has started working with the architect about how do you lay it out in a way where you have, for them, kind of all of the common spaces clustered, but then having the residential areas a little bit separated. They've been really thoughtful about the functionality for the team, so laundry should be close to the bedrooms but convenient for the staff, all those things. And so that's where we've come up with this floor plan where we think it makes it look more like a traditional home from the outside, while being highly functional for the team.
So I'm going to interject a little bit. I think we're getting a bit into design weeds, and I don't think that's the purpose of what we're trying to do here tonight. I think we're trying to say, I think the question before us is, these are our concepts, this is our vision. Is this something that we should proceed with the city, or should we? Are we not on target? Because I think we can talk about a lot of things, and whatever we talk about tonight will look different when you come forward with a proposal, if you do that. So I think I want to elevate it a little bit, get out of the minutia, and focus on the concept. Does this make sense here? And then one of the fundamental questions is, yay or nay on the building? And I think if we can provide that direction to you and indicate that we are interested, we will have accomplished something tonight. Trying to design it here, we had a mayor who did that. I'm not that mayor. And I'm not going to design. I don't think we should be designing from the dais, and I don't think you want us to. So I make that general comment for all of us, so we can move things along. Anybody have any further comments? I don't want to shut down the comments. Councilmember Shack and then Councilmember Wilbur, excuse me.
Thank you. I'll keep it very brief. I mean, I think this is absolutely a worthy concept. I think, you know, this has been a challenging site for many, many years for the neighbors. And, you know, mercifully, when the change happened, when they vacated the site, a lot of calls to me stopped. So that was good. I think that I really, deep down, would love to see a way to keep the building. I understand that that may not be a realistic endeavor. And I don't want this project, which I think is very beneficial to the community, to go away for that reason. But I'd like us to, you know, make sure we've given it the old college try to find a way to use it and make it valuable to our community. I am sensitive to the neighbors' concerns regarding that, but I think with the expiration of the conditional use permit, some of their concerns about what that could become are alleviated to a certain degree. So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness, and I'm sure whatever comes back to us, if it does as an application, will be lovely and will give us a lot to work with. The last thing that I will say is, you know, it's not lost on me that we had an abandoned building that was a target for vandalism and you know, nefarious activities. So I'd hate to see us try to keep this building at the cost of having it be vacant for a long time because the economics aren't there. So there's a lot to juggle there, but if we could make it work, it would be great, and I would really love to think about that.
Other comments, Councilmember Wilburn.
Yeah, so echoing pretty much what everyone else has said, that if there's a way to keep the building, that would be great, but also I understand if it just can't happen, and we don't want to, I would hate to see the project not happen for trying to save this one building. The only thing that I want to bring up is the same issue last time you were here, is Hopkins Crossroads is a very busy road, and just, I don't know, like when you're doing the design, if it can be something in the landscaping, I would hate for anyone to wander into the road or, you know, wander into a dangerous situation. So however, whatever can be done to increase, you know, to make sure that all the residents are safe.
Yes. Thank you. Are there other, Councilmember Coakley?
I was going to say, I like the concept. I think it's a really good concept. However, you know, and this may be something that's not even worth talking about, but I think about like elders and people with, you know, different medical conditions. Is this something that our residents would be willing to place their loved ones in and move into? Because when I don't know, I just think about my neighbors and how they talk about, you know, staying in their homes, and elders try to stay in their homes. And so I think about that, like, have you did any study around talking to residents and just people in this area, like if their loved ones did need to move into something like that, would they be willing to you know, place their loved ones in that care facility?
So like 15 years ago, we weren't in the in-home care business. We were only in the residential care business where people lived with us. But we started getting calls where people would say, you know, I know about English Rose and someday, you know, but we're not ready for it. Is there any way you can bring English Rose to us? And so our in-home care business has grown dramatically. Everyone basically wants to stay at home as absolutely long as possible. And that's going to continue to be the trend in the marketplace. But there is some point where the cost, both economically and emotionally sometimes, of keeping a loved one in home gets to be too great. And so then there is a move to what's called a residential solution. And so these homes just play a piece, just by adding these bedrooms to Minnetonka, is actually a pretty small little drop in the bucket of options, but there are no English Rose bedrooms yet in Minnetonka for Minnetonka residents, and people want their loved ones to stay as close to them as possible. And so people don't want to travel far away. And so we have a lot of families, even families that we do in-home care for in Minnetonka, but they don't want to move into English Rose because they don't want to go 6 miles. They want mom closer to home. And so we're bringing our residents to them. And so we're generally talking, I don't know if I've answered your question exactly, but I'm speaking to the general topic of staying in home versus moving to a residence. And then when you move to a residential solution, I think most people would love it to feel as much like home as possible. And so that's the whole little market niche that I'm in with these residential care homes. And so I think there will continue to, and we've hired a market research company to go out and forecast, and we need a lot in Minnetonka. I won't even make a dent by adding these bedrooms. I won't satisfy the demand for residential bedrooms for dementia care in the city of Minnetonka. So there's no chance that they won't, I hope that they won't be full.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm for the concept. I'm not really stuck on a building. I always think about homes, and if this building was not being used, then I think it's okay to have a concept like this. It's providing a place for people to live, so I'm for it, so I don't know.
Other comments, Councilmember Foster Bolton?
I have friends that live in Minnetonka whose wife has got early onset Alzheimer's, and she could really use, her wife would love to send her there, but I know she couldn't afford it. And that's my concern, is affordability. This does not look affordable to me. And any way you can help with that would be great, because of all the statistics you named, very few of them are, most of them are not, they don't have a lot of money, and that's one thing that I think about. And the other thing is that, didn't you mention too, reusing some of the materials from the building? That seems very cool. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be exceedingly brief. So I think that Councilmember Shack summarized my feelings about the building, the existing building, very well. I have knocked on the door of the home that was at the beginning slide of the presentation, which is just stunningly beautiful, and it really does feel like a home. It is stunningly beautiful inside and out. I could only see, just a little bit in the door, but it was beautiful. So you make a beautiful product, and I know it will feel like home. And I also, affordability, even affordable places aren't affordable, and that's a whole other discussion. I will say we are in the middle of the silver tsunami, and we can't build places for care of our maturing population fast enough. That said, the one thing I do think about, and I don't know that we can solve it here tonight, is that this is for particular use. So even though it looks like a home, I know the use is sort of institutional, and just thinking about flexibility into the future when that purpose is no longer needed and this sort of bubble of seniors dissipates, this building is going to last past that era. And so just thinking about the flexibility of, future uses and helping us think into the future about that. It's a wonderful concept. It's definitely worthy. And like everyone else, I would very much love to preserve the building, but I don't want it to be an obstruction to this project, so.
Anyone else? Councilmember Mailey?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it sounds like I'm probably the one who's most interested in trying to find a way to keep the building. As somebody who trained it as an historian, lived in Europe for quite a while, I always admire the way that they can juxtapose historic buildings and modern buildings and have them complement and speak to each other. I think there's an opportunity to do that here. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see explored again the options of answering Councilmember Foster Bolton's concerns about affordability by possibly looking at, potentially incorporating units for seniors of lower incomes or staff. Again, I know you're going to be looking at this. I would just encourage you to continue to do that. Like I said, it looks like I'm the one who's probably the most interested in retaining that historic building, because I feel that Minnetonka has lost so much of the many of the historic buildings that we did have. It would be a shame to see one more. We can always say, well, we hate to see this but that's what we've done in every other thing. Oh, it wasn't financially feasible. Oh, we lost, whatever. We sold the city hall, the old city hall. We've done this time and again. And so if there's any way that, you can make this work, that would be my preference. Again, probably the strongest preference of any on the council, but, as somebody who grew up in Minnetonka, I think you probably appreciate the value in doing that too, if possible. So thanks for listening and kind of gathering our feedback. I know it's a lot to kind of to wrap your arms around. And so looking forward to kind of next steps. And I think it's a great concept in general and the idea, and I wish you well going forward. Thank you.
Can I make one
Sure, go
comment to Councilmember Foster Bolton's comment? I've challenged our organization, like, hey, why can't we have one room, be Medicaid certified? Why can't we find? I ran a not-for-profit before this for a long time, so giving to the community is kind of in my blood, and so I really want to find a way to do that. It's interesting though that the licensing won't allow me to do that. So if we become certified to provide Medicaid, we won't be able to offer. It blows up our English Rose staffing model. There's so many requirements we would have to follow that it wouldn't even be English Rose anymore. And so I haven't yet found a path to make it a reality, other than, creating a not-for-profit that could fund, right, a room, but that's just one room, and so it's not, and that would be a very unique, 501c3. So I just want you to know that I'm very sensitive to this and have challenged my own organization, but my licensing team, keeps looking at me saying, it's not, the licensing itself makes that impossible unless we're going to make them all Medicaid certifiable, at which point we'd have to completely change our staffing model. So, and then it wouldn't be English Rose.
Mr. Word, I think you've heard from everybody but me, and I've got a lot of thoughts and mixed emotions on this because I've experienced it from a number of sides, and you're probably aware of some. My mom lived in a assisted living, and she had dementia, and she was a wanderer, and she lived in a fairly large place. And one cold winter night, she walked out the wrong door. The door locked behind her, and the staffing was insufficient and inadequate, and she died of exposure that night. So, I care deeply about the safety of residents, and am committed to that not happening to anyone else. But we know it happens every year, and throughout the country. So that's kind of a grim example, but it speaks to the responsibility. And your staffing model of 1 to every 2.5 residents is outstanding. except we also know that if your staff is going to earn a living wage, and they need to earn a living wage, and basically each resident gets 40% of a person, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there is no way that that is a cheap model. That is an outstanding model, but it's expensive. And so I get that. But I also have, I spent a lot of time working on this issue with my family situation, because I have 2 severely disabled daughters who have full-time care, and they live in a place that I own, but a care company takes care of them, and we're going through some transitions there. But the big challenge is finding quality help and paying them enough to make the job attractive enough for them to want to stick with it, and it's an enormous problem. So, and right now, Medicaid is a bit of a mess, as people who have to deal with Medicaid are aware, and my daughters are dependent on Medicaid. They're 39 years old, and it's and I mean, that's the biggest issue in our family. I mean, my wife and I are concerned about this all the time, and so I really have an understanding of all the issues and the challenges that families face, and I have a lot of compassion for them. So bringing this back to the concept you're presenting, I mean, the picture here is beautiful, and it's spectacular, and I'd certainly love to have that in Minnetonka. And I think that, I mean, we as a city are very committed to affordable housing, but I also understand the reality of it, that if you try and make every project check all the boxes, you're just not going to have many projects, because it's next to impossible. And so we have to understand that we're a diverse community with diverse income levels and diverse wealth levels. And we don't want to turn our backs on the people who are on the lower income side, but we also have needs on the higher income side too, and let's not ignore those either. We need resources for all of those. So, I like your concept. I think it's good. Now, there's a couple of things that I've been very involved in the housing issue, both personally and in this role. And, one of the things that, I mean, to a certain extent, you're talking about 20 bedrooms. 2 buildings, 10 bedrooms each, 20 units or 20 residents. And, if you look at the group home, the state group home requirements, 6 or fewer, that's equivalent to 3 1/3 traditional group homes. Yeah. And one of the things we've also worked on as a city is we say, well, tell the state, we haven't gotten legislation that favors us, but we really don't like group home clustering in an R1 neighborhood, because we get concerned about, my term is serial institutions, or the amount of staffing and so forth at a 2.5, 1 to every 2.5 residents. I mean, that does have an impact on a neighborhood that goes beyond having, a group home here and a group home there. So that's one thing. I like your concept. I like the kind of the dementia village concept. But I would say that our zoning and our practice doesn't fit that model particularly well. And I want to be mindful of what we try to do as a city, because I want people to support group homes. So I've been kind of not a fan of larger group homes, if you will, for lack of a better terminology, because I want our residents to support group homes in their community. And if they feel that the impact on their neighborhood is too significant and the city doesn't care, then we lose support for group homes. And we need group homes for all sorts of things, whether it's addiction treatment, whether it's disability, whether it's dementia. We need them. Now, so that's where I have a little rub with myself here, because I can see the benefit of this concept. And I know English Rose well enough that you're a quality operation. You would do a great job in our city. I do get a little concerned about too much density for a specialized care, because I recognize that the staffing requirements and other aspects of it put pressure on the neighborhood, on the community. Now, it's good to hear that the neighbors are generally supportive, and part of it is because I think they had a less than ideal experience with the previous use, and that certainly helps. But and again, to the point I made earlier, if we try and check all the boxes, we just won't have many projects. So I want to be respectful, and you don't have to worry about me. I'm not going to be here next year when you come back. So I'm sharing my opinion, but you can really ignore everything I have to say.
You're still a voting resident, right?
And that is true. I am that. But I think there's some interesting navigation that has to take place here. And then, with all due respect to my fellow council members, I think this old building is pretty ugly, and I do not have a desire to preserve it. But what I do think that we should do is preserve aspects of it. And how can we honor the memory of that building, or how can we take materials and build something of relevance on this site while we're achieving a higher purpose? I'm just personally, I like old buildings and I like historic preservation, but I just don't think everything that is old should be preserved, because frankly, this is not a particularly architecturally interesting building, and the additions on it don't make it more interesting, and all the challenges. I think there's a better place to spend money. It's my personal view, and I know that not all my fellow council members agree with me on that, but I think, let's focus on the task at hand would be my comment. So that's probably enough feedback. Probably not as clear as you would like it to be, but I think you've got a worthy concept that makes sense. I think that there are some hurdles, particularly around this, about this intensity of use for, this is an R1 district, and I want to be respectful of that. And so that would be where my struggle is this an R1 district, and this is a pretty intense use. And I know that I've talked to state legislators about, legislation around against group, not allowing group home clustering for that very reason. And I feel like if I'm all in on this one, then I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. So I think helping me get over that and understand the benefits of kind of the village concept would help me better sell the idea. And again, I can't have everything, so those are my comments.
So can I just have 30 seconds?
Go ahead.
So I have two homes across the street from each other in Edina, and then the home next door came up for sale, so I bought it because it was a no-brainer. It was perfect. And then the neighbors called a meeting. And they shared, it was during COVID, so we were at a big bonfire with hot chocolate, and they shared all their concerns about what you're talking about, just the amount of traffic, and this is a neighborhood for the kids, and bus stop for kindergarten. And so I agreed with them, and I let the house go. And I didn't build a third one for lots of reasons, but I'm in support of these kind of laws that don't allow the clustering. But what makes this unique, and this is brought up by the neighbors, is you're not really in our neighborhood. You're on this county road, and yeah, there's two, but there's no traffic coming through our neighborhoods to get in and out of these two. And so I agree with you, and I think though this one lot is a little bit of an exception because it's not in Sherwood Forest neighborhood. Just something to consider,
No, I think that's valuable and a good point. One of the points that I've been supportive of, and Ms. Wishnack and I have had conversations on that. She doesn't like when I bring this stuff up, but I think that's right. I think that there are things that create exceptions, because I felt that larger group homes, most communities don't allow them. We allow them by conditional use permit. And I would be supportive of saying, we should do that, but we should make them either in or adjacent to commercial areas, so that makes a bit more sense. I'm very mindful of the impacts on neighborhoods. But having said that, I think there are circumstances when you're on a major thoroughfare and you're not having to go through the neighborhood and not having the neighborhood have to suffer the impacts of either staff or ambulances, which come by more often than they would in the typical residence. I'm really trying to balance that, because I understand the need, and I support the need, and I want to be supportive of this type of housing, but I want to do it in a way that keeps our residents on our side and supportive, because we absolutely need this housing. And if we push the envelope too far and we lose that support among our populace, then we all lose.
Right, yeah.
So that's my, that's my kind of oddball take on it, but I think it's important. But I think you've got a good concept here, and I think that your architects and your creativity can come up with a way to honor the history of what's been there without preserving, in my view, a bad building. So I think we're done. Is there anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 14E, a resolution awarding the sale of taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2025A, for the Villas of Chasewood Housing Improvement Area. And Mr. Nelson, I believe that's you, or is that Mr. Funk?
It's
or is that
actually
Ms.
me.
Wishnack?
Sorry,
Okay.
we have too many people on the docket.
I wrote all this stuff down. I probably should have reviewed it with Mr. Funk before, but anyway,
That's
Ms.
right.
Nelson.
Ms.
Or
Wishnack.
Ms. Wishnack. That's
Either
Mr.
way.
That's Mr. Nelson. We probably need a break. But Ms. Wishnack, let's go for it. I'm on a roll here.
It's all right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'll just kick this off. I'm actually going to invite up Shane Rutledge from Ellers, and he's going to kind of go into detail. But if you remember, this is relating to the housing improvement area that you approved, and you've had several actions to kind of affect what happened at Chasewood Villas. And so this is the final kind of bond sale, and there is a motion to adopt the resolution awarding the sale of the bonds. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shane, and he can kind of go through what the report says.
Welcome, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, staff. So tonight we have before you, as Ms. Wishnack said, the bond sale results for the housing improvement area at the Chasewood Villas Townhome Association. And so just zooming out a little bit, what housing improvement areas do, HIAs, is allow cities to finance improvements that they couldn't otherwise finance themselves. And they have to go out and try to do that before they come to the city, and the city is allowed to do that for them. The community there, or the townhome community in this case, then goes and builds the improvements, in this case, exterior improvements, roofs, windows, all these things. And then, that is then financed through a bond sale using the city's credit rating at a much lower rate that they would be able to achieve otherwise. The improvements are then, it's not a special assessment, but it functions very similar to one through fees in the Minnesota statute, so that those are paid through the property taxes, and it's a very secure repayment for the city. So everybody wins. They get a lower borrowing rate. The city gets an improvement to the property. The residents, these properties in these housing improvement areas, generally, not all of them, but generally are naturally occurring affordable housing. I'd say this is one that falls into that as well. There are lots of associations like this across the Minneapolis Metro and in the state. There are lots of needs. I can see this being an area where cities, not just Minnetonka, but we're getting a lot of requests, because you've got all this housing out there that was built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and honestly hasn't been maintained the way that it should be. So with that, this is a 188 unit community there. They approached the city for a housing improvement area. They provided an estimate. The good news is that they had substantial contingencies in that original estimate, and so they've come in under budget. That was all reflected in the pre-sale report that you saw some weeks ago. And then today we took 2 bids on the project. It's not uncommon to only get 2 for taxable bonds like this. You all are looking at doing a utility bond sale here in a couple of weeks, and that would be a tax exempt issue, and it's likely that there'll be more bidders than that. So yes, more bidders are good, but 2 is extremely common for a taxable issue like this. And the good news is that the spread between the 2 bids is tiny. So you can see in the sale day report there, the low bid was at 4.74%, and the high bid, the other bid, was 4.8. So very tight bids. If they weren't tight, we would be having a different conversation. But they're also in line with other HIA sales that we've seen in the metro, and so we think this is a good result for you all. As it was discussed earlier tonight, as part of the process, you guys had your AAA reaffirmed by Moody's. I've reviewed that report. I think it's all good news. There are just some nicks if you get down into the nitty-gritty, generally about the metro area, and we're not growing as fast as Texas, for example. Well, they're going to rate those communities a little bit better, but you all are doing the right things. You got your AAA. We're not surprised about that at Ellers because you guys have very good finances and good staff, but that's all good. So the low bidder is Baird. There were a number of the residents there that prepaid their assessment/fee, and so that's all reflected and baked into the bond sale. The folks that didn't will pay it over a series of 20 years. They pay principal and interest just like you do a second mortgage on your home. Comes through their taxes, again, very secure. We do some reworking of the numbers on the date of sale, and so that's why when you consider the resolution tonight, we want to make sure that you're considering the revised principal amount of $7.97 million and not the $8 million number that you had. So just as a note, if you all decide to approve that resolution tonight, to use the right number, that's very important. With that, again, the closing would be on December 2. The bid tab and sources of uses and all the details are included. Be happy to talk through any of that if you'd like, and answer any other questions. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Council, any questions on this, or any comments or a motion? We're going to probably take it pretty easy on you tonight, but you sat very patiently back there, so thank you for being here tonight. Councilor Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. No questions. I think, this is, we've been going through this for quite a while, so thank you for your thorough explanation, and I will make the motion to adopt the resolution awarding the sale of the taxable general obligation housing improvement bonds in the original aggregate principal amount of $7,970,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment.
And is there a second? Councilmember Wilburn.
I will second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. I want to make a quick comment. These HIAs are interesting, and as Shane indicated, there more and more of them are happening, but the thing that really excites me is that we are preserving 188 units of housing in our city. And had we not done that, who knows what would, when those buildings were removed and replaced, the costs associated with whatever was built there would be much higher. So we are preserving affordable housing in our city. This is a big deal, and I think it's an important tool for cities to have available and to consider to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing, because it's just such an important issue. So I too am supportive. So Ms. Larson, we have a motion and a second. Please call roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack. Yes. Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Rameli.
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the Homes Within Reach memo, and Ms. Wishnack is going to take you through this, but I want to make a quick comment. This is about financing and programs that are available to people who own homes within Reach Homes, and various other programs. And I just want to say that as council members, we could be eligible for these programs, or may have an interest in using these programs personally. But if we vote on this and use and have a plan either now or in the future to use these programs, we create a conflict of interest. So if you think there's any chance that you want to use these programs now or in the future, you should recuse yourself from the conversation on this. And recuse means leave the dais and allow the rest of the council to consider it. If you don't think you're going to use it, I mean, if you don't do that and then later wanted to, you would be precluded from that because you acted in something that could benefit you. So it's a kind of a challenging thing, but if you think you're interested and want to use it, then you have to recuse yourself. If you don't do that, then you will not be able to utilize these programs in any way in the future. So wanted to throw that out. I don't know if I have anything to add to that, but I wanted to make sure that that was just clear to everyone, so we're handling it the appropriate way. And if I did that okay, Mr. Nelson, I appreciate it. So, Councilmember Coakley.
I just had one question or comment. I know I talked to Mike earlier about this because he did bring it up to me since I am a homeowner in this program. Can you also clarify what we talked about earlier? For this specific programs, yes, I understand if I'm part of this discussion and vote on for this specific program or these specific programs. But if there are some programs in the future, maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line, if I'm still in the home, hopefully I'll be moved on. But if I was, then it wouldn't preclude me from being part of those other programs in the future if I had to be or something. So that's, can Mr. Nelson?
Mr. Nelson?
Sure.
Clarify that.
Mayor, Councilmember Coakley, and I assume you're referring to a time in the future where you may no longer be a council member and yet still live in your home and be interested in the program. Yeah, the conflict of interest laws at the state level and the city's local ethics code only apply in their strict sense to your tenure as an elected official. So it wouldn't apply in a private context. I'll always say this, though, whenever I'm asked sort of a conflict of interest ethics question, in general, I will always add a caveat that even when there isn't a strict legal conflict of interest, that it's advisable to always keep in mind on a decision that if your decision is being made primarily in a private interest and not in the public interest in your elected official capacity, that it might be something you'd still keep in mind to consider recusal just to avoid any inference. I'm not suggesting there is. It's a decision for you to make if the law doesn't mandate, but to avoid any inference of impropriety in any of the decisions you would make with regard to that program.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarity.
All right, and so I will turn it over to Ms. Wishnack, and anyone who feels a need can do what they need to do, and we've covered that. So, Ms. Wishnack.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This is no action needed, so really it's just to provide staff with feedback. No formal action would be taken. We would take your feedback, and then if there was movement to do something new, some new program or something, that would also need council action at a future meeting. So this is only to kind of give you the background and information. We've given you this information before, but I just want to make sure it's top of hand, that you understand that Homes Within Reach is a separate nonprofit organization from the city. However, the city was instrumental in creating the organization. It was first run by the city, and then it peeled off into a private nonprofit after the city's kind of inception. That happened in 2002. There were 67 properties since then that have been purchased, I should say, by Homes Within Reach. I kind of use WALT interchangeably, so if you're at home and you hear the words WALT and Homes Within Reach, it's the same organization. Over the history of the program, $221,000 was the average purchase price. Remember way back when this program was started, beyond 20 years ago, the purchase prices were a lot lower than they are today. Over the past 5 years, that purchase price has risen to about $283,000. Now, if you take the land transaction out of it, and you're now just talking about what the average sale to the owner was, now we're hitting that $139,000. That was the average sales price to a new owner. And over that past 5-year period, again, the average purchase price raised to $207,000. So almost $100,000 change if you look at the history of the program, and then you look at more recent transactions. Homes within reach properties have had about 62% increase in value. We compared that to an overall citywide value, slightly higher if you consider all property that's sold in the city, $500,000 and lower in that same time period. So we were trying to kind of compare and contrast what's been happening to the property values for these homes. The average income of the homeowner at the time of the initial sale was $44,311. And then you can see the activity over time. Some of this activity level has dropped because of funding. Some of it has been just not being able to find houses. That's more of the current phenomena. There were 4 purchased in 1 year, so sometimes there's kind of a pent-up demand, and maybe they find a few units and then they go back down to 1 in the following year. So it's kind of a little bit erratic, but at least it gives you a history of the activity levels since the project or the program was established. So Homes Within Reach actually rehabs the properties they purchase before selling to qualified buyers. And I think this has been a little bit confusing, but I want to make sure that there's a clear understanding that the properties that they purchase are brought up to code standards. And again, minimum code standards. So it doesn't mean everything is perfect and beautiful and has a granite countertop. And, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about roof, siding, windows, HVAC, those sorts of basic items. They try to handle those major repairs and the livability improvements before someone else buys it. And so if you actually look at the last 10 years, 17 homes were purchased, and the median rehab cost, again, before they're selling it to an owner, was around $62,000 per home. So the point being, there's a lot of money put into the home before it actually gets sold. Now, if you look at post-sale, so now we're looking at just the homeowners who bought the homes from the land trust, what are they doing? How are they handling repairs? So we found that 76% of the owners actually had pulled permits for their own homes and had done repairs. And we actually pulled every permit. So for all 67 homes, we pulled every single permit they had ever pulled. This includes re-roofing, re-siding, windows, bathrooms, basements, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, AC, water heater, whatever. I mean, all of that had been covered. And some of those owners did access that original program that was set up with community development block grant money back a while back. $7,500 was available. It was a grant, and it was a one-time funding option, 23 owners, again, accessed those funds. 10 owners actually access other city repair programs. So there's a list in your packet of how many other programs we have: home enhancement, and then the Minnetonka Home Repair, which is through, again, CBG money that is now consolidated at the county. So the council asked for some scenarios maybe to try to figure out how much money would we have to do to make some effective strides in terms of repairs or providing special assistance to this group of folks. And so this chart kind of overviews what your options are. So the scenario 1 is really just use your existing programs and maybe even do more marketing. We do a fair amount of marketing already, and we do targeted mailers to certain ages of homes where we think we might have a need and a certain price range. So we already do that kind of outreach, but again, we can do a special mailing as we've done in the past to these specific homeowners. And again, they would have access to any program that people in Minnetonka have access to, like Minnetonka Home Enhancement, Minnetonka Home Repair, Special Assessment. That's usually used for an emergency situation. Maybe there's a problem with, this happens a lot where sewer lines have to be repaired and they don't have cash to pay the amounts. There's also state programs, fix-up funds, energy loan funds, unsecured home loan, etc. And then of course you have private options. So if you ask me, what did these other 16 homes do? It's possible they didn't need any major repairs and maybe they needed cosmetic or aesthetic repairs. They could have done that on their own. So if they put new kitchen cabinets in and they put new paint in bedrooms, that all could be done with a HELOC or, a home loan, an equity loan. So that could happen. It could be too that some of the homes did not qualify under the 80% of area median income. So while they've been in the home, and you could see that the transactions there actually hasn't been a lot of sales of homes in this program. And so it could have been that incomes exceeded the amount that the grant program allowed. So that could have been part of the reason. So I think it's a lot of things going on if you look at just those 16 homes. The scenario 2, outreach would be just specifically targeted to those homes that did not access previous programs, and you could put aside $120,000 to specifically reach those folks and put that money aside. Again, this could be, fashioned from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund if you keep the 80% area median income and below. And then you could also do another funding for all homes within reach owners, another round, if you will, another $7,500 for each home, and that would be about $255 for the program. We would obviously do the same outreach we had done before and try to reinvigorate another round of grants. So with that, I threw a lot of information, a lot of stats at you. I'm happy to answer questions and provide clarity. But at this point, we as staff are looking for clarity if you want to proceed with any of the options. If you do, I would recommend that you provide the EDAC an opportunity to weigh in and give you some advice from their perspective before proceeding. So with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnack. Council, questions for Ms. Wishnack on these options. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
So the houses the 67 houses might be up to code, but is there any kind of check, what do the houses look like now?
Yes. Mayor and Councilmember Patsy Foster Bolton. There are a couple of ways we evaluate houses. One is through just general assessing, and there's a rating on the houses as far as what condition they believe they're in. Sometimes they're allowed in the home, sometimes they're not. Just depends on whether or not the homeowner is accepting of a visit. So that we have gone through, and they usually get a good or a better or best, good or best. There's a classification in the assessing world for that. That's one way. The second way is we did actually go out to every single house a while back and just kind of check on things. And from, again, you can't tell necessarily what's going on inside, but sometimes the outside will give you a hint if things are going well or not. And so occasionally you will see some dilapidation, but chipped paint, that sort of thing, maybe an older window type, that sort of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean there's major problems in the home. It might not look great, might be an aesthetic issue, but that doesn't always necessarily mean there's major rehab issues in the home. So I guess to answer your question, there are a few ways to check on it. And then Homes Within Reach oftentimes will visit with clients and talk through anything that they are interested in doing and try to help navigate with the homeowner if there are some challenges. We just had one actually, which was having an issue. Again, that was a sewer line issue, and they were able to get some assistance. So,
Other questions? Anyone? I'll ask one while we wait for anyone else to come up with anything. But so in the mid program, where it's just targeted to the 16 homeowners who haven't used the program, is there? I mean, the costs are predicated on all 16 homeowners using $7,500, and if you were to estimate, do you think that would be the case, or do you think maybe half the homeowners would use that and some would use the maximum amount, some would use less? Do you have a kind of a view of what you would expect if you were to outreach with that program to those 16 homeowners? It's speculation. A speculative question.
thanks, Mayor. I think it's hard to speculate because we'd already kind of done this before, right? And so we kind of, I thought we got great participation. I never expect 100% of the people would participate. Again, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it, make too much money, they don't qualify, or the project that they're thinking of costs more than $7,500, right? So new HVAC, I just did it, and it's a lot of money. I did a new roof, it's a lot of money. So some of this would only scratch the surface in some of those instances, and so they don't have maybe the matching funds to do it. So that does happen, and that maybe would hold them back from doing the improvement. So I don't think we would have 100% no. But again, it would be targeted for the folks that had not done improvements. Remember that the rest of the people have pulled permits for a lot of different things. So, yeah.
And so if someone has, just for example, if someone, let's say someone has a $20,000 project, the project that they do, they could get $7,500 from this to pay against that, and then find other sources of ways to either pay for financing for the balance. It's not like they have to be $7,500 projects, correct?
Right, that is correct.
All right. Council members, any questions or comments on these options? What are your thoughts? Councilmember Coakley?
Thanks, Mayor. I just have some comments about the different options, and then also the reason why some people may choose different, or why they may not be able to use these different programs. Because, I'm just going to speak frank. Well, I applied originally and didn't qualify because I was over the income. And then one time I applied and then I qualified for it, right? But here's the thing about this program. You end up spending a lot more on projects. I think it's very important to help people understand that, and you don't get the equity for the money that you're spending into the home. So to me, the $7,500 is really a good gesture for our city so that people can help with the upkeep of their homes. Right now, I've been watching one of our neighbors who actually live in this program. Live in one of the homes in Minnetonka, who owns a Homes Within Reach house. And I reached out to her and I told her about the program, and I told her about the $7,500. She wasn't aware of it. I don't know if she accessed the money or used it. I'm not for sure, because I did never go back and question her. But I've been watching her over the years really put a lot of money into her home. And right now she's actually putting more money into her home. She's insulating her doors because she's having a lot of air that comes through her doors. And my experience is the same with my personal home, but realized it was going to be so much more expensive. And so when I think about this program, I think about the money that people are really trying to put into the homes to upkeep the homes, and how expensive it is. and at the end of the day, you just don't get the equity that you're putting into the home. So that's why I really felt like it would be helpful for people to benefit from it. Now, some people may be over the income and they cannot access this the funds because they might be over the income. So I get that. But like when you, like for me, recently putting in a whole air conditioning unit and a furnace and had to put $2,500 on a credit card after that. That gets real expensive. And I know this is personal, but I'm just trying to help you all give an example of like the type of things that happens in this program. You know, putting roofs on that house twice, you know, like different things like that gets really expensive. A sewer system that I put in that house because the floors and stuff, like those are the things that you really don't get a chance to hear about. Like I've spent over $60,000 in this house, you know, like a lot of money that I'm never going to see. And so the reason why I talk about this program and I tell people, because I really want people to understand it. And if we're going to continue to support this program, I feel like I told Mike, I probably ain't going to be on the council too much longer. But I really just want people to be supported in this program, because it does come to a time where, you know, at one point I couldn't afford to do anything. Luckily, I got a job with the state. Otherwise, I would be up creek right now. I couldn't even get qualified for this program, the CEB program or the CBDG program, whatever it's called. I didn't qualify for it. I was over the income. Not over the income. I didn't make enough income at one point. So that's why I just really want this program to support people who are going to be in this program, because if if they're not able to access funding, and I know we do have different sources of funding through Minnetonka, but everybody don't qualify for all the different fundings, because I know I didn't. And it is because I just didn't have the income to do it. My credit was A1, but they just didn't have the credit. So I just want us to really think about that. Like, people are getting into these programs because they cannot afford a traditional home in Minnetonka. So if they can't afford a traditional home in Minnetonka, unless their income increase drastically, and people of color income does not increase drastically. We know that people of color income make lower income. So if we keep that in the back of our mind, people of color income is much lower than our fellow Caucasian folks, and we have a high number of people of color in these programs. So in the future, if they run into like a significant problem, they try to qualify for these programs, most likely they're not. And we have other programs, we have other things to help them, but still, are they going to qualify for it? So that is why I keep pushing that if we're going to support a program like this, if we're going to keep supporting Homes Within Reach, I think we also should simultaneously support the people who are, you know, purchasing these homes. Now, if they disqualify for it, fine. But what happens when they lose their home because they cannot afford to keep up the maintenance, the high maintenance, maybe like a, you know, air conditioning unit, heating system that I had to put in, the 2 roof, the plumbing system. Like I did that twice in the same home, 2 roofs, and just did like a air conditioning unit, and I had to put it on a credit card. Like that's pretty significant to me. So, and I know my neighbor is doing the same thing right now. I'm watching her for the last 5 years, and I'm like, are you going to stay in this house forever? Because you're putting a lot of money in this house that you're not going to get back. And she said, Kizzy, I can't even afford to move. She said, I'm upside down on my house. It was Brian Kirk who helped me. Brian Kirk told me to think different about this house. He was the one who helped me to prepare for where I was at. So I just want people to remember that. Like, I don't want to set our residents up for failure when they're purchasing these type of homes, because it can become a burden for them, and I just don't want it to be. And I don't have anything else to say about it, but I know I've been harping on it since I've been on this seat of the council. But over the last 6 years, I've learned a lot about equity. I learned a lot about wealth. I learned a lot about programs. I learned a lot about the state of Minnesota. And the state of Minnesota, if we know, has the highest disparity in the country. And it's programs like this, even though we're trying to be nice and we're trying to help folks, we also put people against, we kind of put them in a little box, and this has been a box. So that's all I have to say.
Councilmember Foster Bolton.
Yeah, I agree with Kizzy. And the other part of this is that we talk a lot about natural occurring affordable housing, and these are affordable homes that will stay affordable. My house abuts Homes Within Reach home, and they, it's like Ms. Wishnack was saying, it's not like run down. But like the back door used to have like a tiny deck and then stairs going down to the backyard, and that it's rotting. The stairs are rotting and unusable, so they don't use it anymore. But I would guess that if the city came out, they would be like, well, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's code. And they have a lot of chip paint, and it looks like they need a new roof. But it does look like, oh, it's okay, it's livable. But I do think that, I often think they need some more support. And I don't know why they haven't done these repairs. And maybe they wouldn't qualify. And $7,500 does seem like such a small amount. But like this home is an affordable home, and instead of us coming in and bringing it up to code, like to keep it affordable, and if the homeowners can't afford it, we do sort of have an obligation to the community, and to keep naturally NOAA homes in our city. We should not just say here are programs that you can access, go ahead, go at it, because the people that are buying these homes, they're already can't afford it, right? And so buying a home and then just not supporting repairing the home does seem sort of like we're abandoning. And I don't know the rest of the homes. I just know from my neighbors, they work really hard or whatever. So, and it seems like a problem to me, and that's fixable.
Councilor Shack.
Thank you, Mayor. I do think this is a bit of a conundrum, trying to kind of give staff direction. I think that, I have an appetite for scenario 2. I'm a little, there's kind of maybe these, 23, 33, 20-ish homes that have done something, but they haven't used a city program that I'm wondering about. But I think what my colleagues to my left and right have maybe touched on a greater issue that we might need to think about, because I know one of the things that happens is when these homes are sold, right, Homes Within Reach, they're subject to the land trust, and then Homes Within Reach will come in and kind of do it again, right, fix them up to sell them again. So the money's going to go into this at some point, one way or another. And I wonder if this is a bigger conversation. This is the conversation for today. I think we should do option 2. I'm questioning about people who haven't used city resources yet, but have done something. Do we want to open it up to them? So that's the direction. But a larger future point is, do we need to be working with Homes Within Reach on this, on how they're supporting, and maybe they are, but you have somebody with missing stairs or, bigger issues, not kind of bordering cosmetic / code, but nobody, I've had some areas in my house that I wouldn't want anybody to see while we've been trying to get them fixed up. But, what can we do to maybe make sure that we're not having people who are living in inadequate conditions, and also just kicking the can down the road for when Homes Within Reach gets the house back, and then they have to put a bunch of money into it at that time anyway. Is there a nexus there? And maybe that's a conversation for our next housing study session, but that's what's come to mind as we've talked about this today.
Other comments? Councilmember Romali?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple questions. And I should have asked this earlier, but it just kind of came to mind. Are these programs like the CDBG that just went away, that's what we're talking about replacing, basically it seems like, with city money to replicate the program that we went away because we actually gave money back because it wasn't fully used. So could people layer that, like our regular, home enhancement programs, and also do the CDBG before?
Ms. Wishnak.
Thank you, Mayor and Council Member Romali. I think it depends. So it depends on the program, and it depends on the parameters of the program. So some of the state programs and local programs have different parameters. Some of the programs that we note here are, one is a CBDG program, one is not. One is a loan program. It's at a low interest, 1%, so, there are all kinds of different scenarios I can think of. And the other thing I was going to say is that you're right about the CBDG money. Yep, there was money left on the table for sure. And you're not beholden to the 7,500 either. That's what we offered before. You can make any number you want in that column, and it just moves the number on the bottom. So do with it what you will on that side as you feel appropriate. But again, to answer your question, I think it depends on what the project is, depends on what the income is, and it depends on their capacity to have a loan in addition to a grant. And I think that sometimes will get in the way if they have too much debt on the house or in other consumer debt. So.
All right, thank you.
I will, Deb, go ahead. Excuse me, Councilmember Calvert, go ahead.
Sorry, just one quick question. So considering where we are in the year, and we have some people that are paying attention to our money very closely right now, our budget and so forth. We already approved a preliminary budget, and if we approve scenario 2 or 3, say, how does that fit into our current budgeting? Just because there are people paying attention to this, I know.
Sure.
And we're some of them.
Yes, and we are some of those.
Again, Mayor and Council Member Calvert, if you use the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, you wouldn't impact the general fund levy, and so that wouldn't be a non-issue. If you use the development fund, again, non-levy related fund, there's fund balances in various economic development areas, but you have choices on that without having to impact the general fund budget.
Thank you. And just a quick comment, which is that I very much appreciate the insights of Councilmember Coakley and Foster Bolton. And I also know that, with every passing day, things get more expensive. And so I'm I have many repairs I need to do to my home. And it's all just very expensive. So I appreciate those comments. And that's all I have.
So I'm going to kind of jump in and maybe throw out a couple ideas to see if they have any purchase here. I too, the fact that we probably have money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, to fund some of this is encouraging to me. It doesn't really have a direct impact on the levy. Two, we spend a lot of money to get people into homes, but maybe we should spend a little bit more money to keep people in homes, because, I mean, to me, it's a tragedy, and it does happen. I mean, I'm on the Homes Within Reach board. I'm terming out soon, kind of coincidental with my departure as mayor. But, you know, it breaks my heart when we have a homeowner fail, have somebody who was excited about buying and owning their own home as part of the Homes Within Reach program, and for whatever reason, I mean, there have been foreclosures, there have been other issues, and they have not been successful homeowners. If there are things that we can help people be more successful as homeowners, and I mean, trust me, I mean, I call, you know, it's the honey-do list. I mean, I have a list of things that don't work at my house that I need to get after. I mean, that's just the joys of home ownership, but some of them are significant that can really make the difference between somebody being able to stay in a home and not. And, you know, it's just a terrible feeling to have something that you have to do and not have the resources to do it. So, like Councilmember Shack, I think scenario 2 is a good place for us to start. That makes sense to me. And I would also argue, given the inflation in the cost of home repairs, I would argue that maybe we should make that number $10,000 or $12,500, and go with that. And that doesn't mean it's the last action on this that the council will take, but let's recognize the inflation that we've experienced from the time that this program was created, and create a pathway. You know, I don't want to get the city into business. I mean, I don't want to get us into the home inspection business, but if somebody can make a case that their house needs, you know, for livability purposes, the example that Councilmember Romali related about somebody who can't use their back stairs because it's too dangerous and it's rotting off the house. I mean, you know, we have an interest in helping people get that done. So creating a path. So my quick and dirty recommendation would be, you know, increase the, let's say increase the amount by $5,000 to $12,500, and focus on the 16 homeowners that had not accessed the previous programs and target them first and see what happens. Now, admittedly, you know, the people who've access programs were limited to 7,500. So we're going to 16 people who haven't used it. Now it's a more lucrative program. You know, are we creating another set of unintended consequences, which we should be aware of? But I think bumping the amount a bit makes sense, because clearly the cost of materials and the cost of labor have gone up significantly. And so reflecting that would make sense. But I think a more finite program like scenario 2 makes more sense at this time. That would be my thought. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
Yeah, I would actually like scenario 3, but as a compromise, maybe have those 16 homeowners that, or the ones that accessed that program, have access to the $5,000. You know, like, but my first reaction is we should, you know, have it be available for everybody, and it isn't that much. Even $12,500 is not that much. And the other thing is that we all have repairs that we need to do for sure. It's just that, you know, I feel like we have more access. I mean, the people that buy these homes are poorer than we are, probably, and that don't have as much access. And because, you know, we all need to do repairs on our homes. It's just, it's a different scenario for people that own the Homes Within Reach.
Councilmember Coakley, I think you had a comment.
I was just going to say I agree with what Councilmember Patsy just said, but I would go with scenario 3, and the reason why is because I know that everybody's probably not going to qualify for the program, or maybe not even apply, but I don't want to say, well, you get it, oh, you get it, you get it, you get it. You know, like, I would rather they have the option to apply or be eligible for, if they're eligible for it, but I know that everyone's not going to qualify for this program, but I'd rather see, okay, at least it was out there, it was presented to them, and maybe they don't qualify, and maybe we don't use it. That's great for us. It's not being used, but to present the option for people if they are eligible, I just rather have that option for them.
So in the interest of moving things along, would someone like to make a motion and see Councilmember or Ms. Wishnack? Well, no, that's right. We're not
don't
needing
need
a
a
motion.
motion.
We need provide Ms. Wishnack. Go ahead and say what you want to say.
Just
Thank
for
you that.
clarity, one of the things thrown out is 12.5 for the middle program. That was one option, which obviously increases the bottom line. I did calculate it for the scenario 3. Again, we were using 34 homes or half of the access to get to 255. If you increase that to 12.5, now you're
It's about
at
400.
425 for the program, $425,000. So just so you have some understanding of what but I don't hear clear direction, so it would be helpful, Mayor.
We do need clear direction. So do council members have a preference? I mean, we've heard about scenario 2, scenario 3, making a decision. You know, the tariff on is for 12.5 for a scenario 3 is 4.25. And I think it would be, let's see, if we add 80, so it'd be 200 for the second one if we went to 12.5, I think. So
I'll check your math, Mayor.
it was quick and dirty in my head.
And
Councilmember
there
Mayor.
we were.
I was just wondering if a
200.
compromise might be
200?
to bump it down to 10,000 to, you know, because that's a pretty significant jump and I know it's needed. But just to see, I mean, I'd hate to run out of funding if over 50% of people apply or are awarded and are eligible, and then have the program run out. So that's just.
And
I guess I would also favor scenario 2 at this point.
so
Can I
Councilmember-
clarify?
Yeah.
So you said, what's the compromise?
Instead of 12.5 per grant.
10,000 instead of 12.5. So that reduces the cost somewhat.
Okay.
Instead of 200, it
Well,
would be
To avoid.
160.
Sorry, can I have another? do I
Yeah,
have-
go ahead.
So are we getting close to draining that fund then? Like,
This would be new.
right, but the Affordable Housing Trust
Yeah.
Fund.
Well, you would take it off the balance, which was, as we talked before, 2.3 million.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
And then if you just made transactions to add more money.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And the other, oops, go ahead. I'm
So
sorry.
there's over $2 million in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund
Today.
right now.
Right.
That's what I'm.
So the other thing is that if we provide direction tonight, which we intend to do for one of these scenarios, that does not preclude the council from saying, let's see how it works. And then if we need to add more, we can. And so that's kind of why I liked scenario 2, because we could see how that appeals to the people who haven't used the program. If there's significant demand there, and I think it should be a bigger number than 7,500, but I'd be fine. Round numbers work really well for me. 10,000 would be fine as a first step. And then, but then, you know, if the demand is significant, we can decide to do more down the road. But I think the idea of helping people stay in their homes and improve their homes or keep them up to snuff, for lack of better terminology, is a desirable outcome. So,
Mayor, I kind of agree with that approach because we're not slamming the door on anything. We're actually opening the door on something that kind of just went away. And I think this can be sort of a data point also, starting to find out, you know, I think it would be great to find out from residents that use the program, did this pay for everything, or how much of it, of whatever they were using it for, did it pay for? I think, we need to start gathering some data about what the most common home repairs are costing right now that people would be using it for, and sort of adjusting in the future. But I sort of agree. I'm comfortable with scenario 2 at about $10,000.
Councilmember Wilburn.
I would just like to say, if we go with scenario 2, have some sort of outreach for everyone to say, if these funds were available, would you make use of them? Would you have a use for them? Because there might be these 16 homeowners didn't reach out because they don't need it or whatever, and there's still this other group of people that need the money, and if we don't, so like basing our decision on what these 16 people do may not be indicative of the overall need. So I think we need to communicate with people and find out what the need is.
I think I would agree with that. And in fact, if we do scenario 2, I'd say we should also do scenario 1. I mean, there should be that outreach and making people know that, these are these resources, and oh, by the way, we can learn, and we have these new resources available. And again, let's monitor it. And if the demand is great, let's expand it. If this covers it, or if we find that we don't spend the amount that we've allocated, we can reach out more deeply. But use it as kind of a learning opportunity, because we want to help people stay in their homes. And I think the middle option with a little higher number probably would provide both information and support the people we want to help. And that's a good first step, but not necessarily the only step. Does that work for everyone?
I think that's good.
Ms. Wishnak, is that direction?
I think, Mayor, I think we could do a couple of things. We could bring back the scenario 2 with the extra money, 10,000 for the 16, as I heard you discuss. I kind of saw the head shakes. I think it's probably good to, we'll set this up sometime this year, right, by the end of the year, and come back to you with the program parameters. So that's going to take some time to develop. Then the next step, probably, Mike and I had talked about this earlier, you probably should then go back to the EIP and be more methodical about how you're approaching this, and that might be the time you look at further information. When we look at all the programs and all the uses that you're pulling out of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because I think it's easy to say, yeah, there's a balance, but then what happens when a project walks in and needs 1.7 million? Yeah, no,
I totally agree with that.
So I think there's more work to be done. I think we can get the small program off the ground pretty easily, but then you probably should take a bigger stab at it when we come back with the EIP. Does that sound like a fair way to handle it?
Yep. Councilmember Mailey?
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate those comments, because I was thinking that, if we implement here, then we're taking away from a potential new construction of affordable housing elsewhere. So that has been my concern with that. So I appreciate that answer. That trying to balance that, I think, is important. Thank you.
Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I just want to comment, though, that we talk a lot about it's not sustainable development, is, with the Mills Church, it was development. It was with Armani. Is that what it is, Armani?
New construction.
It's new construction. And we talk a lot about how new construction is too expensive. It's too expensive. Well, we have an opportunity to to rehab this. And I just, I don't want to, set aside most of the money for new construction when we constantly talk about it not being sustainable. So that's my comment.
No, I just a comment on that. I think that's a valid comment. At the same time, I think what Ms. Wishnak said is that we don't want to propose a program that's big enough that upturns the apple cart on what we're trying to do with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We want to spend our money intelligently, and this is a new program, and I think I'm sensing broad support for it. As Ms. Wishnak said, there's more work. Let's let's do this as kind of a test. Let's learn from it. And I agree with you. I mean, we want sustainable programs, and NOAA programs are far more sustainable than new construction programs. So I think having that orientation and bias, but we also want to, you know, we're kind of running and gunning here a little bit, and to maybe upturn our priorities that have been well considered in the EIP, because this feels good. I'm a little hesitant to that. So this is small enough, but instructive enough that we can make progress, and then we put our finger on the pulse and take another look at it 6 months down the road or a year down the road. Mr. Funk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to be very brief, I appreciate, again, Ms. Wishnak's comments as we were talking through that earlier. I think the other thing to just keep in perspective, and why the staff is suggesting that, is with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that was created not too many years ago by special legislation. And so that was created through some excess pooling, TIF pooling dollars, and tonight you took action to kind of supplement that again. But that's not a forever revenue source unless state law changes and other things come into play. And so really, when you think about the city, where we're really thoughtful as a city is our long-term planning. And so really coming back next spring, reevaluating the EIP, taking a look at then kind of the fundamental structure of our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the long-term revenues that come into it, and then your discussion at that time on just fundamentally where do those dollars go, whether it's, and I think you were already saying this, how you balance that out between new and existing homes, how do we best utilize those Affordable Housing Trust dollars, because eventually they're going to be depleted. So we want to be thoughtful and strategic on how you move forward in that. So I think you'll have that opportunity next spring as well.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Are there, this is not a voting item. Is there anything else from anyone? Otherwise, we'll move on. We're almost to the end, but we do have an EDA meeting. Don't forget that. But the next item on the agenda is appointments, reappointments, and we have a Park Board Young Adult appointment. And I believe, Mr. Funk, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll quickly turn it over to Ms. Dahman for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. The young adult seat on the Park Board has been vacant for several months. Eric Kowalski recently submitted an online application for the position. Mayor Weerson reviewed the application and recommends Eric's appointment. So with that, the recommendation this evening is to appoint Eric Kowalski as a young adult non-voting member of the Park Board, effective November 11th, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and since I made that recommendation, I'll make that motion. Would someone like to second it? Councilmember Wilburn.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by the mayor and a second by Councilmember Wilburn. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romalee.
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is adjournment. Councilmember Wilburn.
I move adjournment.
And is there a second? Councilmember Calvert?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. All right, but don't go away. We do have an EDA meeting that I don't think will take long, but we do have to do it. So I will pull up the agenda here. And it is, thankfully, it is still Monday, November 10th, 2025. This is a meeting of the Economic Development Authority. I will call this meeting to order and ask Ms. Larson to please call roll.
Romalee.
Yes.
Coakley. Yes. Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Here.
Calvert.
Here.
Weersum.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, we're all here. Well done, Councilman. It's getting late, and we're all getting a little punchy. So we're all here. So next item is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Commissioner Shack.
I move approval of the agenda.
And Commissioner Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Shack and a second by Commissioner Foster Bolton. Please call roll.
Romalee.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Weersum.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the meeting minutes of the Monday, September 8th, 2025 EDA meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Commissioner Calvert.
I move approval of the
Is there a
September 8th EDA
meeting minutes.
Is there a second? Commissioner Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Calvert, a second by Commissioner Foster Bolton. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Romaili?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Foster Bolton?
Yes.
Shack?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Calvert?
Yes.
Weersum?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 is business items. We have one. 5A is the modifications to the Applewood Point, Glen Haven, and Shady Oak Crossing tax increment financing districts. Ms. Wishnack.
No other report for this other than what we heard at the council meeting.
Very good, and it's very similar to what we did in the council meeting. So is there a motion to approve? Commissioner Wilburn.
I move we adopt the resolution approving modification to the tax increment financing plans for Applewood Point, Glen Haven, and Shady Oak Crossing tax increment financing districts.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Calvert.
I second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Wilburn, a second by Commissioner Calvert. Ms. Larson, please call roll.
Romaili?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Foster Bolton?
Yes.
Shack?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Calvert?
Yes.
Weersum?
Yes, motion carries. And now everyone's favorite motion, Commissioner Wilburn.
I move adjournment.
Is there a second, Commissioner Calvert?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilburn and a second by Commissioner Calvert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.